Welcome back to RNS Podcast. My name is Dylan.
And I'm Evan.
This week, Evan, we have a great movie to talk about. But first, if you don't mind, if you would be so kind, audience, as to leave us a like or to leave us a comment throughout the video. You know, leave your mind open, let your mind wander. Think of a nice comment.
Yeah.
You know, if you have anything to say.
And if you enjoy the episode and you want more RNS content. Click the sub button and click the bell.
Even the bell, no less. Yeah. If you're feeling a little extra frisky,
yeah.
You click the bell.
I mean, what does it hurt? The bell, like what? One extra notification a week. Come on, that ain't gonna hurt you. That ain't gonna kill you.
Your phone already controls your fucking life.
Yeah,
you
come
better
on.
just
one
click
extra
that
notification and shit.
But yeah, we're happy to have you, and we're gonna talk about Catch Me If You Can. It's a great movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. It's a great. You're right out the gate. It's
okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic. I'm still in my intro mode.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe
it's good. It's good. It's a good movie.
I didn't know because I really didn't know your opinion on it.
We haven't talked about it really.
Yeah.
We talk a decent amount before we actually record. We haven't really said shit about this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good movie.
Well, I did just watch it this morning, so
right.
Yeah.
And I watched it
Thursday.
a few days ago.
Yeah, on Thursday.
Yeah. I watched it on an alternative streaming service.
Oh, okay.
Where did you watch it, Evan?
I had the Blu-ray.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
The whatever. I guess 20. Yeah, I think it's the 20th anniversary Blu-ray came out. The Steelbook, and I bought that in I think it was October, or November, something like that.
And what is this? This is a 2002 movie, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they released a Steelbook for the 20th anniversary, and I bought that, and I finally watched it. So, yeah.
Well, good. Yeah, we're working through them. Working through the Blu-rays.
We are.
Steven Spielberg picture.
Our second Steven Spielberg movie.
No less.
On the podcast, yeah.
What is the first one?
AI.
Oh,
AI,
right.
Artificial Intelligence.
You're right. That's also a great movie.
It was good, yeah. It's a great movie, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, AI is good. This is good. Are there any other great Steven Spielberg movies?
Ready Player One.
Yeah. Okay, we got something to work with. No, Ready Player One is terrible.
Yeah. Did we even say what we were reviewing?
Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, dude. I feel like I don't think we even actually. Yeah, we didn't even say the title.
Well, I'm sure they clicked on it and they knew the title, but we probably have a.
Still though, it's a little unceremonious. I guess,
yeah.
Not just
2002, based on a true story as well. 2002's
that was a joke.
Catch Me If You Can, allegedly.
He's innocent.
He's innocent. Free him.
Yeah.
Free Frank Abagnale. I think he's still alive.
Well, free him.
I think he is still alive. He's
free him from the shackles of the FBI.
Free him from the shackles of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, please.
But yeah, very very interesting story on and off screen. You know, the IRL story is pretty interesting.
I don't know too much about the IRL story.
I actually did. So I watched it, I think Thursday, and then on Friday I listened to about 2 hours through a few videos of him being interviewed and him giving a speech.
Does he look like Leonardo DiCaprio?
No, he's much uglier.
It's like Jordan Belfort.
Yeah.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
He is significantly uglier, but that's okay. But that's all right. It is kind of interesting too, though, because Frank Abagnale Jr., as you'll come to find throughout the film, he's at the time of his cons, of his felonious cons, he was thought to look a bit older than his actual age. You know, he could pass for a bit older than what he actually was, but
I feel like that wasn't the case in the movie.
It's kind of
you look pretty young.
It's kind of the inverse, where they went out of their way to let's get an older actor that can play a bit younger.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting, inverse in terms of casting.
Yeah, because I feel like at this time, DiCaprio probably 25 or something.
Yeah.
Already. Yeah. And he's playing a 17-year-old.
What was he in, Gangs of New York?
Yeah.
At the time. And I guess he played a bit older in that movie as opposed to his age. I haven't seen that movie. I don't know anything about that movie, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. They kind of went the, playing a kid that acts like he's older when you're kind of an older adult that kind of plays younger. But Leo, I think he was a good choice.
Yeah, he was.
It is interesting that he kind of. It's almost a spiritual sequel, Wolf of Wall Street, to this.
Yeah, it was funny. I was kind of thinking
similar.
that they are similar, kind of.
Yeah,
I feel like
this Leonardo. Leonardo con man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I feel like I have more sympathy for Frank than I do for Jordan Belfort.
Oh, me too,
yeah.
for sure. Because of course, if you don't know, the movie.
Do you want to give us a quick synopsis?
Yeah, we'll talk about the story. Okay. Frank Abagnale Jr. In real life, as in the movie,
son of Frank Abagnale Sr.
No less. Yes, you're correct.
If you couldn't guess.
So, basically, what happens to him is his parents get a divorce. This is something that he's not equipped to handle as a kid.
Oh, no, he certainly is not.
And so he runs away, Evan.
Yeah.
He runs away, and he builds his own life for himself. Very inspirational.
He builds his own empire.
Not much of an empire here. More like a Wolf of Wall Street thing. But, yeah, he builds a life for himself through conning and hustling people.
Yeah. Less
hustling and more just, lying and scamming checks. But
yeah.
It's an interesting story.
I agree. And the other half of the story is, of course, Tom Hanks' character who's chasing him. And there comes the title, Catch Me If You Can.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that, all that is fake. But a lot of the movie is real. Israel. A lot of the movie is Palestine. Now, a lot of the movie is pretty real. And we'll come back to it. There's a few examples, interesting examples of things that really did happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, I feel like I already know, even without knowing because I said at the beginning, I don't know too much about the real life story. All I know is just what the movie gave me. But I feel like I can tell, especially after watching The Fabelmans. So obviously Steven Spielberg inserted a lot of his own story into this.
You can tell the Spielberg self-insert moments.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's like I don't know, maybe his parents really did get divorced and stuff like that, but it's like what happens is very similar to Steven Spielberg's own life and all.
That was the real true and honest, to quote Christian Weston Chandler, the true and honest impetus for the real life Frank Abagnale to leave home. Yeah, was his parents' divorce.
Yeah. So but I feel like that would probably maybe like the hook for Spielberg. Yeah, because he's like, oh, because he has his own experience with that shit, and then but anyways,
well, that's what one of the instances I was watching of Frank Abagnale Jr. Speaking on his life experience and the movie. He said Spielberg was he loved the real life story, and the reason he wanted to make the movie was so people would know about the real life story. And I think really what it was is Spielberg felt like a bit of a kindred spirit in Frank Abagnale Jr. Yeah. As someone who was had a tough time with his parents' divorce.
I agree.
How about that?
Yeah.
But there is definitely an element of Spielberg extrapolating further on that feeling that didn't happen in real life. For example, Evan, he never saw his father again.
After he left
in real life, Frank Abagnale Jr. never saw his father again after leaving home.
Oh, okay.
But
the movie wouldn't hit the same if you didn't have those.
No,
especially the last time they see each other. I'm getting ahead of it, but that's a really good scene.
I think it was a good dramatic choice to have him stay in contact with his father. Yeah. I think that was a good idea. And I also appreciate the relationship he has with the FBI agent, even though that also was completely made up for the movie. Once they had like 3 conversations on Christmas, I was like, this is not real. Yeah, this cannot be from real life.
Yeah, it's just to play with the themes of the movie.
The idea of like looking for a father figure or so I don't know, where do you want to start somewhere in particular? Do you want to start at the beginning of the movie?
Well, actually, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Since you've been somewhat doing some research into the real story, does he enjoy the movie? Do you know?
He does.
Okay.
So he said that he's not a movie guy. He's not a huge movie guy, but he said he did see the movie twice. He said that he saw the trailer like 100 times. But then
I guess that makes sense.
But then once he actually saw the movie, he only saw it 2 times. But he said that it was fairly true to life and that he did enjoy it.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear.
He said that...
I wasn't sure because, like, you said, like, some of it's BS, so it, like, I don't know, maybe he would get mad or something. He's like, that didn't happen.
I think the biggest thing that he kind of took umbrage with was... Well, first of all, he's not an only child. Which I think for dramatic effect, they made him an only child in the movie, of course.
Which is interesting because Spielberg is not an only child, so...
I think that's just for the sake of simplicity.
No, I get what you're saying, but...
Yeah. And then also, of course, the thing with the dad, how he never saw his father. And I think Spielberg still does a good job of showing, like, Frank Abagnale, like, the character and the man, like, his...
like the father.
His... the
junior. Okay.
His, like, the way he was devastated by his father's death, they still captured that on film well.
Yeah. That's a really good scene as well. Yeah.
Even though he did get to see him more than the real life one, it still captured his kind of his devastation.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that scene once we get to it.
Surely,
but I do want to talk about that scene.
But there's some interesting differences and stuff. But he did like the movie. He has no issue with the movie. And it's crazy, like, how many of these, like, frumpy, ugly white guys that get to be like, oh, I got played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, you're so lucky. Awesome.
I can't wait till the day where Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are doing our life story.
Yeah, I can't wait for us to be ousted for our, little criminal activities in the background.
Yeah.
And they get to play us. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was just curious. But getting into the movie, I did want to start with a quote, if you don't mind.
Oh well, before you get to the quote,
okay.
Not anything in particular, but just so you know, I do have like quite a few little interesting factoids from Frank Abagnale Jr. and different things about his real life throughout the movie. So I'll be mentioning those as they come to be relevant.
Okay.
But please,
that sounds good.
You have a quote for us?
To quote one Mr. Patrick Willems on Letterboxd.
Do you know him?
No, I don't know him.
He's a YouTuber. He's a pretty good YouTuber. I've mentioned him on the podcast before.
Okay. Well, guess what? I'm quoting him. So, shout out to you, Patrick Willems. Because,
Patrick H. Willems.
Well, on Letterboxd, he just goes by Patrick Willems.
Patrick H. Willems. That's his YouTube. But go ahead, please.
To quote Mr. Patrick H. Willems on Letterboxd, he had a one-sentence review of this movie. It was a 4.5-star review.
Okay.
So, for reference. I personally would not rate the movie that high, but we'll get into that.
It was a good movie, though.
No, I did enjoy it. He wrote, and I don't necessarily 100% agree with this review. Well, I do, but whatever. To quote him...
Some human error. There's room for human error.
He said, "The most fun, deeply sad movie ever made." And I thought that was an interesting quote. Because...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. Please.
I was going to say, it kind of reminds me of AI.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Because AI, I would say this movie is...
more fun than AI.
It's more fun in general, but AI also has that element of, like, Spielberg whimsy.
Yeah, exactly.
But with the kind of underlying terrible, horrible
thing
going on.
But yeah, I feel like in this case, it's... Because AI, like you said, AI... It got the whimsical, but I wouldn't really call it a fun movie. Yeah. I guess you could, but this is like, this kind of has like that Indiana Jones kind of adventure feel to it. I don't know if you agree, but it's like,
it almost feels like a buddy road trip movie.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, it feels like something like that.
Is that like, I feel like if any other, like if Christopher Nolan made this movie or something, like it would be like a lot more serious and probably a lot, like it would be like kind of like almost like a story about like a drug addict. You know what I mean?
Where he's like
a man's
he's
fault.
addicted to scamming.
Yeah, exactly. But this is portrayed as being like this adventurous kind of thing.
You get a bit of that like addiction kind of.
For sure.
Especially at the end when he's like on the printing press, like running around.
Yeah.
And also that's an interesting thing from real life too, where I was like, oh shit, that was like a real thing. Where he built like scaffoldings around the printing press thing. But anyways, I agree.
Yeah, but I agree with what you're saying as well. But I just mean like when you're watching, it's very lighthearted and it is kind of fun. And you're like, oh, it's like seeing him commit these crimes. It's like a goofy kind of like almost like a cartoon. You know what I mean? Yeah. And obviously that's Steven Spielberg's kind of style. But at the core of it is kind of a sad story. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a good quote.
That is a good, pretty good way to sum up the movie.
Yeah. Though I would say the only reason I don't 100% agree, because I feel like in general the ending is pretty like, for both of them, it's like kind of a happy ending for both.
It is a happy ending, and Frank Abagnale Jr., IRL, as well. I told you, I'm going to keep bringing him up.
Oh, yes.
Because I did my dang research. But he did have a beautiful, wonderful life afterwards. He met he had a beautiful wife and beautiful kids that he...
Was that true, what it says at the end?
Yes. And they remained friends until his death, the FBI agent. His name was not the same as the movie.
Oh, I thought you said the FBI agent thing was bullshit.
So it was bullshit in the sense that they were like, they had this back and forth throughout his entire criminal career.
Yeah.
But there was in fact the FBI agent that had a hand in arresting him wound up being the one to offer him a job to get him out of jail, and they wound up working together throughout the rest of the FBI agent's life.
Okay, I get you. But they weren't like how they had like this enemy thing going on throughout the movie.
Yeah, there was no like Moriarty, Sherlock Holmes thing going on.
Yeah.
With them, but it did like one of the arresting FBI agents, and then he wound up having a relationship with him throughout his life afterwards, and he dedicated his fifth book.
Oh, fifth book. He wrote 5 books.
He wrote 5 books. Yeah, so once he was still, he continued to write books for a long time. Frank Abagnale Jr. And once the FBI agent, I forget his real name, but who, God rest his soul. When he died, he dedicated a book to him tim, and he was like, we're great friends and everything. So that was definitely.
Oh, what was his name in the movie? I can't remember. It's like Carl Hannity, I think. Yeah, I don't remember how you say his last name. And this is kind of a thing. Like, I feel like a weird parallel. Like, they try to parallel him, Frank, and Carl, because a few times both people incorrectly pronounce their last name.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you, noticed that, or if maybe... I think that's a thing, right? Because I remember that happens with Frank. They say Abagnale wrong.
Abagnale or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that happens with Tom Hanks' character a couple times as well. But yeah, I feel like they try to parallel them in that way.
Yeah.
And of course that's a big thing in the movie, just in general, kind of like the parallels between these two characters.
Yeah, and they do really spell it out for you.
Yeah.
Eventually. But that was good.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but it doesn't really beat you over the head with it. I don't think.
It does a little bit.
Yeah. Is there like a specific moment you're thinking about?
Yeah, I think it's the second time he calls him on Christmas or something. But basically it's
Oh, is it when he's like, 'cause you have no one else to call? Yeah, that.
He's like, I know why you're calling. Because you have no one else to call. And that like freaks Leonardo DiCaprio out. He like freaks out from that because he's like, oh no, he sees into my soul.
Yeah.
It's a little.
That was sad though.
It was sad, it's sad. But it was funny. There's a quote from the real guy that's he's basically says like, he was like, of course that's not real. Why would I ever call the FBI? Yeah, that was really funny.
But he didn't realize that he himself was also a lonely soul with no one to call on Christmas.
That was interesting too. I like the element with like he still wears his wedding ring, and the kid
and he's also lying. By saying like, lying. Oh, I mean, just wearing the ring in itself is kind of a lie. You know what I mean? And then what he says about his daughter, he's kind of like he's stuck in this one moment in the past. So I guess spoilers. Who cares? We can just skip that. But yeah, Tom Hanks' character, he is a divorced FBI agent with a teenage daughter, but he tells Leo's character like, oh, he's still married, and he says he doesn't have a family, but then later he's like, okay, I am married and I have a 4-year-old daughter. Well, that's kind of a lie because she's actually a teenage daughter and they're not together. Anyway, but yeah.
So he has a similar issue to Leo's character where they both feel alone. Mm. Both lost their families. Different points in their life. So did you want to start somewhere?
Yeah, I did. With actually the very beginning of the movie. I wanted to see what did you make of that? Where he's like on the game show, because that does not come back.
Yeah,
that does not come back. That
did confuse me.
Yeah. Is that a real show? I genuinely don't know.
So like I said, I listened to the real Frank Abagnale Jr. talk about himself and the movie for probably 2 hours cumulatively. The game show never came up. I don't know what the game show was.
That was weird though, and it's like, oh, they were all Frank Abagnale.
I think it was just to underline the whole con man, like fake.
That's what I assumed.
Persona aspect.
But I was like, it was very strange just to have that at the beginning and then doesn't come back in any way.
I expected that to be like the bookend, or something, but it does not come back.
Yeah, I thought. Me too. I was like, oh, that would come back in the end somehow, but it doesn't. So I don't know. That was kind of. I mean, it's fine, I guess, but it's like I feel like the movie wouldn't be better or worse without it. I mean, you know what I mean?
It
should probably be a little bit better.
I think cut that, right?
Because like it seemed pointless to me, to be honest.
I think you'd want to, and also the weird part about it to me too is, like Leo is like the movie star. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a handsome, beautiful young man versus these two, like, normal-looking, chubby guys on the game show. And it's like, why draw our attention to the fact that, like, Leo looks like a movie star?
Yeah.
When he's supposed to be playing this, like, kind of anonymous character that can slip into any disguise in any life, you know? It's kind of a weird choice.
Well, they do a good job, kind of making him look a little bit gross towards the end. Like when he had the long hair, like it looks like it's not like washed or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or when he's actually working for the FBI at the end, it's like before he looked kind of fresh, but then he kind of got the lame cut at the end. You know what I mean?
He kind of got the lame cut at the end.
But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. So that we can never talk about that again. That's yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted. I want to know what you made of that.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They could definitely. I think you're right. They could cut that out of the movie.
And also there is one other thing from the beginning I wanted to talk about. The title sequence. I actually really like it a lot.
The cartoon.
Yeah.
Or like the stylized kind of credit sequence.
Yeah, that and the music. I really like the main theme of this movie.
Me too.
Yeah, it's really good. Shout out to you, John Williams.
Very,
of course.
Like Pink Panther-y.
Yeah, I could say that in the title sequence, it kind of reminded me of like a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
And the whole movie kind of has a Hitchcock kind of vibe, like Strangers on a Train or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of this caper. You know what I mean?
It is a bit of a caper, isn't it?
Yeah. Like a thriller kind of element, you know, like classic Hitchcock. So, I don't know if Spielberg had that in mind at all, but especially with the title sequence, I was like, oh yeah, this really reminds me of like a
what
Hitchcock
is it, North
movie.
by Northwest?
Yeah,
well,
a lot of these movies do. North by Northwest, Vertigo has it. I'm sure Rear Window probably does. I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah. And just the dynamic of the two characters kind of reminded me of like Strangers on a Train.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you got that vibe at all watching it, but that was like the first thing I thought about when the title sequence
definitely
came up.
The title sequence has that vibe.
It's also probably supposed to have a James Bond vibe as well, I think, because of course that does come up later.
Well, I think that's more the like acknowledging the fantasy of it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm. No, for sure.
Which I thought that scene was great because you have...
Because I would have done the same thing.
You have this, because he's literally me
yeah.
in that way. No, but there's the aspect of this criminal and this kid who's like buying the James Bond suit and buying the, what do they call that car? It's right there.
McLaren, right?
No, not the McLaren. It's back in the 60s it would have been Aston Martin.
Okay, wait, why is it McLaren?
I don't know.
Yeah. What the fuck's a McLaren?
McLaren, isn't McLaren is it a watch? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm broke. I don't know fancy shit.
We talk about movies for a reason.
Yeah.
But there's the aspect of like this kid, this criminal, like living this weird fantasy of like buying the the James Bond suit and the James Bond car, and then you have the actual FBI agent who's like being shit on by his coworkers and stuff.
I was gonna say that was a really good scene when he's like, he's dressed up in James Bond. He's living like this, like kind of dream where he like gets to sleep with the model and stuff, and then they cut that with Tom Hanks being like having a shitty night at the laundry.
Laundromat. That's what it was.
I thought that was really good. I like that a lot. Yeah,
that was clever.
Yeah,
it was just a clever bit of I guess like observational comedy.
Yeah,
like because there's not a point in there where there's like a distinct punchline.
Yeah,
but it's just funny to see them like living those opposite lives. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
it's like it's basically telling you like actually being the agent is not glamorous.
Yeah.
And, you know, being the criminal kind of is, or whatever.
Yeah. I can't lie, I was watching a little bit, I was like, damn, I mean, like, this looks pretty sweet. I'm like, this looks pretty sweet, what are you doing? I can't lie.
There's an interesting thing the real Frank Abagnale Jr. said, where, you know what he said, Evan?
What did he say?
He said that he cried himself to sleep until he was 21.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh at you,
It
Frank.
is funny. It is funny.
I'm sorry,
You know,
Frank.
he shared his story for a reason.
That is true.
So that we can all learn and grow from it.
That is true.
Yeah.
He cried himself to, like, starting at a certain age, or just since the day he was born?
No, not from when he was born. From when he was, like, you know, when he ran away when he was 16.
Yeah.
From when he was 16, or it might have been 19. 16 to 19, he said he cried himself to sleep.
Okay, so while he was living that life.
While he was living that crazy
that's when this happens,
life, yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't... Okay, I was going to say, like, with the 21, like, while he was in prison or something, yeah.
21 is, I think, when he got caught.
Yeah, because in the movie, he got caught at 19.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, he was 19. But in the movie, they don't explicitly say how long he was actually in prison for. Because he was supposed to spend 15 years. And then he gets out, of course, to go work for the FBI. And they don't really tell you how much time is in between that.
I know in real life, he was... he basically got out early.
Yeah, I assumed it was probably like a year or two. That's what I figured. But they don't really tell you definitively. But yeah, I just wanted to mention... but you were saying about the James Bond thing, to go back with the whole title sequence thing as well. I thought that was good also because it kind of shows like, oh, like he's still a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like if it was like a normal... Well, actually, that might not be true. Like, some adult would be like, yeah, actually, no, I want that James Bond shit too. So I'm like, I was going to say it's like, oh, it really like shows like that he's still a child. But
there's also the aspect of like, not only him wanting to be James Bond, and he goes and sees James Bond in the theater, and he also, which we think about that now as like an old dude thing. It's like, oh, like your dad or your grandpa likes James Bond. But back then, that's when your grandpa was a kid, you know? So he was loving James Bond, and also his alias... being like a comic book character, and he has the comic books on his bed and stuff.
Barry Allen, if you don't know.
Barry Allen, no less.
The Flash. So we see early in the movie he's reading Flash comics.
Or, well, I think he just has a pile of comics next to his bed.
It was like, but it was multiple Flash comics for sure. Yeah,
you're right.
There were probably some other stuff mixed in there, but...
I don't think so. I think it was just the Flash.
That's what I was thinking, but yeah.
Was this a WB movie?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
It was, I don't know who it was. I don't think it's Warner Brothers, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. We can look later.
Well, who does James Bond?
That is MGM. Because Amazon now owns MGM, remember?
I don't know who made this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, on the Flash comic thing, the movie starts, of course, when he's younger, probably like 15 or something, and his dad is what is it? His dad like owns a store, right?
Yeah, a textiles store, right? Or no, stationery.
Yeah,
not textiles.
And
stationery, I think.
He has some kind of issue with the IRS and shit. Like, I guess he owes money to the government. He hasn't been paying taxes, right? And he owes money to the government. And then of course they lose their house, have to move to apartment. He has to go to a new school and everything. And that's kind of the start of the trouble for our young protagonist. Do you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree.
That is a bit of the inciting incident.
Yeah. Some trouble with his parents because of that. And yeah, this was where I was like, oh shit. Like immediately I was like, oh, watching The Fabelmans. I was like, okay, I can immediately see that there because do you care if I talk about The Fabelmans? I know you haven't seen it yet.
Alright, keep it minimal. Okay. Don't spoil it too much, but I mean, the fact that, Spielberg's parents got a divorce, presumably.
Yeah.
I kind of get that already, so.
But in that, it's kind of like an opposite, though. It's like his dad got a better job, and then they end up moving. But still, just them moving creates, like, some tension between the parents because of stuff that I won't spoil for you.
Thank you.
And then also, the school thing, because you remember when he starts school, Frank... He runs into some trouble with other students. And that happened to young Sammy Fabelman, a.k.a. Steven Spielberg, in The Fabelmans, once they moved to a new school.
Their names are actually Fabelman? In the...
Yeah. He runs into some trouble with some jock-type students as well. So immediately I was like, oh shit, like, I think Spielberg projecting himself a bit into this, the character. So I thought that was interesting. And of course, that's when we see, I like this scene a lot. It's like, oh, you kind of see where he starts the conning thing.
Yeah, the first con is as a high school teacher, right? Or a high school substitute,
yeah. Just to kind of get a one-up on the students. And I thought what was interesting as well was, because this is actually a bad thing. Like, so Christopher Walken plays senior, and like we said, he loses his store. He owes money to the IRS, whatever problems he got, and they had to move. But he kind of relishes in kind of being like, fuck you to the government a bit and not wanting to pay them back.
There's definitely an element of, which I don't know, I've never heard this, of all the, like, you know, what I listened to of him talking, I never heard him, like, acknowledge whether his dad was, like, a con man or a criminal.
I don't think he was a con man. I just think he didn't want to pay taxes.
But he kind of was, though, because that's where, like, Frank Abagnale Jr. learns that from his dad, like, did you drop this? Like, the necklace.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. That is true.
Trick.
Yeah.
You know? So I got the impression of, like, he's using, like, the only kind of real-world skills he learned from his dad to survive, which is being, you know, like, a con artist.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, initially when going into the movie, I thought that they were both criminals. That's what I had thought going to the movie. But, that's not really the case. At least, if you want to say the father is a criminal, it's not nearly on the same scale.
But they're not like in cahoots with each other.
Exactly. And that's what I thought going into the movie at first, because like I said, I didn't know too much about the real life story, and I hadn't seen the movie before. I thought that was going to be the case, where it's like, oh, they're both criminals, him and his dad. But no, not really. But yeah, like I said, you does pick up some of his dad's worst traits, I guess. But yeah, my point is that he kind of presented as kind of like a cool dad, and then you see, like, when he gets in trouble for, you know, conning fucking students at the school and acting on the substitute teacher, his dad kind of praises him for it.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, oh, he's like the cool dad. But then, of course, later it's like, oh, no, this is not a good thing. He praises him for it. He, like, gives him, like, you know, a little pat on the back, and they're laughing. And the mom is, like, more upset, obviously. The mom is not great either. Like, she's not necessarily a good person. We can get into that, but...
She's hot, though.
Is she hot?
Yeah.
She looked
French girls? Come on, son.
Paint me like one of your French girls.
Come on, son.
Titanic in 3D in February. Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, what was I saying? That's kind of the start of, like, oh, okay... You know, there's some toxic traits between both the father and the son here, clearly. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that the start of his conning. I like that scene. It's like it's a good intro. Because I feel like they don't we don't really get like a lot of setup for like, oh, he's like him conning, but outside the little interaction with his dad, like the necklace thing and what he does with the teacher. Like, I mean, kind of a massive leap. I get what I mean, but it's nonetheless kind of a good setup.
Yeah, what I thought it was at first. So he watches his dad at one point. Well, his dad runs a pretty big scam at one point because he does the whole.
Well, are you trying to get the loan from the bank?
Yeah.
Well, he does have. Yeah, you're right. He does have his son pretend to be like his fucking
driver. They rent a whole car, and then they have to scam a free suit out of the tailor to give to the son.
Yeah, so actually you're right. Like his dad kind of is just not on the same level, but his dad is kind of a con artist.
And for some reason, I thought when the dad was the dad does the necklace thing where he's like, oh, like this must have fallen right off your neck.
Yeah.
I thought he stole it from her. But of course, no. He's buying necklaces and giving them out as like a bribe.
Yeah.
Which it took me until we see Leonardo DiCaprio's character do it later for me to catch on. It's like, oh, like, of course, like they're buying it and like using it as a bribe. But, so he does pull a pretty big con. Does that work? That works, right?
No, they don't end up getting the loan from the bank.
They don't get the
Yeah, they don't get the loan, yeah.
Okay.
And that leads to more trouble, of course. because eventually they're broke, and the parents are getting divorced. He of course sees his mother home with his friend, who's awarding him at the beginning of the movie when they're at the Rotary thing. His mother is taken up with Senior's friend. See, I want to talk about the Fablemans a little bit, but
what do you got?
There's a similar situation.
Okay.
In that film.
Damn.
So yeah, but anyways, I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, oh shit! Like, I wonder if people like after seeing the Fablemans, if they like are seeing this movie in a new light. And of course, for me, I saw the Fablemans before seeing this. So I was like, oh shit! I was like, there's a lot of parallels there.
It's interesting because it's kind of like distills what's from Spielberg and what's the actual story.
Yeah,
like you can kind of see through like what Spielberg adds to the story of the actual Frank Abagnale Jr. Yeah, that is interesting. I still do want to check out the Fablemans very soon.
Yeah, you should. You should for sure. Good movie. So yeah, his parents get divorced.
And you have the scene where
he's running.
Where he where he says, "Catch me if you can, Mom and Dad."
Yeah, he does. He does.
Say
that. He said that in his head, subconsciously.
Oh, he did. Did he not?
Maybe that's the point of the movie.
Oh my god!
I don't know.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, I guess I would say that. But I really like the scene where I think some type of lawyer, the divorce lawyers are in their house. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they basically...
And he thought it was someone sleeping with his mom.
Yeah, another one. But no, yeah, so they're having the divorce lawyers come in to their family home, and Frank Abagnale Jr., he goes home. And they basically tell him, yeah, your mom and dad are getting a divorce, so you're going to have to... Why don't you go in the other room and you'll write down a name on this paper, and that's, the parent you'll live with.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where he decides to run away.
Yeah.
And
because how could you choose a child? I mean, how could you get a child to choose? That's kind of fucked, isn't it?
No, that is fucked. That is pretty fucked. But one interesting thing, Evan. Now, this is a moment where I want to bring, once again, the real-life story into account.
Of course.
I thought this was interesting.
If I asked you to be because I know you're the historian, so I was like, I need a historian with me to be my co-host.
I'm a bit of the, what is it?
To bring some real-life context to the films.
So he, in real life, it's a bit more dramatic, I think, even.
Oh.
Where basically he got taken out of school early. Frank Abagnale Jr.
Yeah, because he just came home.
Yeah, he just came home and the lawyers were there and they said, okay, you're going to have to sign and choose which parent you want to live with. But in real life, he was taken to a courthouse and he said the judge didn't make eye contact with him, didn't really look at him.
That's
and
fucked.
he basically said the same thing, but in the setting of a courthouse. And apparently he ran out of the courthouse.
Oh, shit. That is way more traumatic.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe
I'm glad that actually wasn't in the movie. Like, even though it's the real life, I'm like, I feel like it would have been really over the top.
It plays more... Yeah. It would have played more melodramatically, for sure. So, maybe it would have been... Maybe it was a good choice to set it in the house. But yeah, so that was interesting to hear. Yeah. But yeah, so he runs away. And then where does he end up? What does he do in the movie?
Well, he, takes the train, right, to... I don't remember exactly where.
Some New York place.
Yeah, because he writes the check. Because his dad opens... we see earlier, he opens the checking account for him.
Oh, that's another difference. And apparently in real life, he had more money saved up.
Yeah, his dad gives him $25.
He had more money than that in real life of, he had worked as, a newspaper route or, a delivery boy. No, he worked as a delivery boy for his father in real life. So he had more money saved up than just $25.
Yeah.
So in real life, the checks lasted longer.
Yeah, because as we see, he spends all his real money pretty much immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the first things that happens in the movie, right, is he gets kicked out of the hotel.
Yeah.
Where they're like, your checks have bounced for 2 days in a row. Like, get the fuck out. But I guess in real life, that lasted him a bit longer. And he was be able to get cheap jobs where they'd be like, okay, we'll pay you. He said this $1.25 an hour, and then he started to lie about, I'm not 20, I'm not 16, I'm 26, and then they would pay him okay, we'll give you full time, we'll give you $3 an hour, but that's still not enough in New York to buy yourself somewhere to live.
Yeah.
So that's when he starts conning. And of course, in real life in the movie, he sees an airline pilot. And at the time, especially in the 60s and
that's fucking crazy.
What?
Just thinking about, like, kind of how, like, I wouldn't say it's easily, but he kind of easily frauds as a fucking airline pilot.
That's one thing.
Like, in a post 9/11 world, that it's not even possible.
You know what's funny? He said that because he said that it was in his interview at Google, where like the Google employees, basically he gives a speech to the Google employees and they get to ask him questions. And one of the guys, one of the Google employees asked him like, do you think it would be easier or harder today
Definitely much harder
do what you did? And he said most of it is easier.
Really?
Like, you can go on Photoshop, make the check.
Oh, like that aspect, yeah.
So the check fraud is easier. But he said, like, becoming a pilot and flying for free would be impossible today. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he sees the pilot. Am I skipping anything?
No,
he kind of gets kicked out of the hotel.
You know, the details don't matter, okay?
We're here for the grand
Exactly.
fable.
Fable Mins.
Oh.
Did you say it, dude?
What?
When you said Fable, did you say Mins?
No.
Oh, I thought you said that like under your breath, yeah, as a little joke.
No, I did say Fable though, as a bit of a reference.
Okay.
But so he sees on the street, he sees a pilot. He sees how glamorous it is. So that's an interesting aspect of the movie to me. Is like, I guess pilots were like super cool back then.
Yeah, I it made sense. It's funny. I was thinking about that too when I was watching it. Yeah.
Because that's not really something. I mean, I guess if you're a little kid or if you just like aviation or whatever, and you see a pilot, you're like, oh, that's badass. But back then they were like movie stars, where it's like, oh, can I buy you a drink? Like you're badass. Like you fly a plane. So he has the idea. He calls up. He gets the. It's really interesting because that part was actually super accurate too. To the account of basically he just called them, said, "Hey, I lost my suit. I'm a pilot. Can I get a new suit?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'll set you up with a new suit." He gets it tailored perfectly to him. He says, "Okay, I'll let him know you're coming. Go get the suit." And then he gets it tailored, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll just charge your Pan Am account.
Yeah,
so don't worry about it."
And he had the ID for them to charge the account from the pilot he spoke to while he was pretending to be the reporter. So he was able to just use his fucking account number or whatever.
Yeah, so and at first he offered them cash or a check, and they were like, "Oh no, we'll take it out of your Pan Am account." And he was like, "Oh, perfect."
He said even better.
So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing is that was real about the model.
Oh, the one he sleeps with Jennifer Garner?
Oh, no, I mean the model toy.
Oh, okay. Because she was a magazine model.
No, yeah, I don't mean like the magazine model. I mean the model plane.
Oh, yeah. That was actually, I thought that was really cool.
That was clever.
Taking it off and putting it on the checks.
And he also, I don't know if he did it.
If you don't know what we're talking about, he like takes a, like, I don't know what you call it, like a stamp watermark thing, like off the toy planes and puts it on the check. Watch the movie.
It's interesting too. Another interesting thing about that, in terms of like changing the movie to make it more dramatic or like visually interesting, is like kind of like we said about, it's like dialed back a little bit for the court, like the divorce scene, but it's kind of made more dramatic by the fact that he kind of puts it in the water to peel it off of the plane. Yeah. But in real life, like, it was just a sticker sheet. Like, because the models came with a sticker sheet.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't look as cool.
It didn't come on the plane, so you have to have the scene of him in the hotel with the water, with like peeling them off in the bath. So that was an interesting creative choice. Yeah. As opposed to real life, but yeah, so that's clever as well.
I agree.
Something that wouldn't fly today. No pun intended. No pun intended.
No, certainly not. I feel like you would get way more prison time today also. They were like 12 years.
Yeah.
I feel like you did that now. You would go for like life.
Harsh.
Yeah.
Something pretty harsh you would get today, I think. but he was white. And he started his criminal career when he ran away from home when he was 16.
Yeah, that's true too.
So I think there's an element of that where it's like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
but remember at the end they're like, we're not going to charge you as a minor. Remember
they do say, yeah, that is true. But I think there is an element, even if you say that as like a cop, it's like the judge is going to be like, okay, he ran away from home when he was 16, like he's
a genius.
He's a fracking genius. So yeah, he starts his career as a pilot. He's able to finesse his way into getting an ID badge. It's really interesting to watch him start to get used to the lingo and figure out what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of like what to say, like when he has to learn like flying. What do they call it? Like what equipment do you use?
Yeah.
And he doesn't realize that means like what plane do you fly until later. And like the deadhead thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's very interesting seeing like how he finds these opportunities.
I agree. Some of my favorite moments in the movie also were like when somebody asked him a question, and it's like the way he has to BS his way out of it, like because that happens obviously a few times in the movie. I always thought that was, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. So if you don't know as well, first of all, watch the movie. Good movie.
Yeah.
But he winds up being an airline pilot, a lawyer,
a doctor,
and a doctor.
Yeah.
I
think those are the big three in Georgia.
In Georgia, no less. A pediatrician in Georgia.
Yeah, as a pediatrician, because we see Laird, it's like a child that when they wanted to like cut the thing out of his, or stitch him up.
That was disturbing.
It wasn't disturbing.
That
right?
kid,
he was disturbed.
He was the Jacob Tremblay of his day. That little child actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. He was good.
And yeah, he was disturbed because he fucking goes and pukes.
And I guess that apparently that was accurate to real life as well. He didn't like distinctly that didn't happen, but he was like, oh yeah, like I couldn't stand blood and stuff. I don't know. I don't think this is in the movie, but apparently he was in a singles apartment complex. Frank Abagnale, that's where he lived in Georgia. And he knew the FBI was looking for him, so when they asked him what he was in that apartment complex, he didn't say pilot, because they knew where they were looking for a pilot. So he was like, oh, I'm a pediatrician, because it was like, because it was a singles complex. So like no one would be like, hey, like my son's sick, can you help me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's no kids there. So I thought that was interesting. I don't think that's in the movie at all.
No, they don't really mention that. You just see he's living in a pretty nice apartment in Atlanta. Yeah. Because by that point he's probably... Well, I think... Because eventually, when he moved to Georgia, he's already been kind of caught on about the pilot. And I think they specifically say by that point he's already stolen $1.3 million or something like that. So obviously he can afford it, especially back then in the 60s. He can afford like a nice ass fucking apartment.
I looked up the inflation actually. Would you like to know?
Yeah, sure.
So in
total he stole like $4 million, I think it was. So what's that?
And this would be so this would be even more today.
Yeah.
Because I looked up the inflation for 1978, which I think was when he was arrested. Is that right?
No, it was in
72?
the 60s. It was in the 60s.
I think he was arrested in the 70s though.
Really?
I think
this only takes place over 2 years.
Is it?
Yeah, it's only over only over 2 years because he starts, well, like 2.5 years because it's like 16 to 19.
Yeah, I think it's like the late 60s to the early 70s.
Yeah, is it? I will just look really quick. But anyways, you were saying though, but
the point is, I don't remember what the years.
Either
were,
way, it can be similar.
I looked the inflation up, and it was the scene with the model, and I was curious, like how much was $300 back then? You know, because that's the first amount of money he offers her is $300, and $300 back then was over $1,000 today.
It is from. Takes place between 1963 to 1967. He caught in 1967. But anyways.
Oh, you know what it was? I looked up the year of the interview.
Oh, okay.
The interview was on Johnny Carson. So I think I looked up the year of the interview. So the inflation would be even higher.
Yeah.
But from what I looked up, it was like 1978. Because I remember the reason that I looked it up is Johnny Carson was like, I'd go back to your hotel room with you for $300.
Johnny.
So I was like, man.
What do you say, oh Johnny?
I was like, oh Johnny. I said, oh Johnny. How like
what a silly guy.
How much money would I need today to fuck Johnny Carson? So I looked up, and it was like $1,200.
Damn.
$300 back then was like $1,200. So he fucked that bitch for like 1,000 would be like 3,500 or something.
Well, you said for 300 with 1,200.
Yes.
So then it was basically $4,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he wound up actually paying the woman $1,000. Yeah. He actually wound up paying her nothing, right?
Oh no, it was that.
Because he tricked her, kind of.
Yeah. He gives her the check.
She played herself.
Yeah, she did play herself.
She played herself.
Because he wanted to go get the money. She's like, no.
And you know what's interesting, too, is that he says that story is 100% true. Frank Abagnale.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, shit. Lucky guy. Lucky old fella. Wish I could scam women.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right. But yeah, to backtrack a little bit. So he's a pilot. And he's basically using that to just travel. He's using that to... basically, the fact that he has on the pilot's outfit means tellers at banks are less likely to question him.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier.
Because he just kind of... He's like obviously an authority figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like... And plus, back then, like we said, like pilots were... kind of cool. So
yeah.
It's like, the pilot's
They're like,
here.
thank
That's
you
awesome.
for your
It's
service
like,
type shit. Yeah.
It's like almost like an army guy.
Well, pilots are cool. Pilots are still cool.
They're not unbadass.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's using that to his advantage.
Yeah.
And then they catch on to the pilot persona, and that becomes kind of a famous thing. And it's interesting, they mentioned this in the movie, and it's true to life as well, is that he never flies Pan Am. He's impersonating a Pan Am pilot, but he never flies Pan Am because he never wants to be asked, like...
To actually, like...
Hey, like, where do you work? Like, can you help us out with this? Or, like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and he never actually had to fucking fly.
Yeah.
He just gets the free rides as, like, a co-pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
Or with the deadhead, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah, it's deadhead. It's, there's a word for it. It's like the bum seat or something. Call it, where it's like that fold-out chair.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, because it was so he wouldn't actually have to try and fly the plane.
Yeah, like he and especially, so they don't ask him anything.
Yeah. In
particular about Pan Am, and it's interesting too because in the movie and in real life, when they ask him what equipment do you fly, he just says the plane, like what was it, 737, and then the other one.
I don't remember.
The two planes, but basically he says whatever plane they're not
yeah,
on.
exactly. I'm about to say yeah.
So that was awesome. That was really clever.
I agree.
And then, as his time as a pilot, what else does he do? Is there anything else interesting in the...
Well, like you mentioned, he's just kind of living up. And I just want to say about the equipment thing also. I thought it was, he does have sex with the stewardess.
Yes.
Like you say, stewardess. That doesn't come back at all. But he's like, this is the best day I ever had. And then he becomes kind of a playboy after that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a big thing in the movie, but, it's very clear that women are, like, attracted to him, cause...
How can you blame them?
Well, he takes, like, pretty, like, pretty, well-respected jobs, he's making a lot of money, so... And he's Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, so, yeah.
And he's Leo DiCap.
Yeah, so. Of course,
pretty badass.
Yeah, he gets with that stewardess. He said, "This is the best date I've ever had."
That was funny.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's when he lost his virginity. I'm gonna.
Right?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Imagine losing your virginity in that type of circumstance.
Sounds awesome.
It's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. But there's one last little real life fun fact I'd like to mention that was interesting. Apparently what he would do, right, is he would go to the airport and eventually, he didn't always do this, but eventually he found out that so in the airport, right, you have like Delta, Pan Am, American, like there's all these different airlines have different like booths or counters.
Yeah.
And he found out that each one would honor a check individually. So he would have a check for each one and cash out a check at each airline because as a courtesy, every single counter would honor any airline's staff.
Oh, really?
To cash their check. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he would go through, and he said that would take me about 8 hours to go through every single one and get a check from every single one, and then there would be a shift change, and then he would go back and do it again because there would be new staff.
Yeah.
So he could pull like 16 hours of getting checks cashed.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's right? That's fucking nuts.
That is pretty insane.
So that's the last little airline fun fact I had, I guess.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The historian.
And then
they call you the historian.
They do call me this. I'm a bit of this historian of the friend group. Yeah. I can tell you about Mussolini.
Yeah.
I can tell you about...
You're an Italian history connoisseur as well, so...
Mostly the Axis powers, yeah. Mostly. But yeah, so then he switches to being a pediatrician, is that right?
Yeah. Oh, but before we get to that, so we should talk about Tom Hanks' character a bit. Carl, what was it? Honestly, I not even memeing on the movie. I don't remember what they say. Like, they say his last name wrong or whatever. It's Hanratty? Is that how you say it? Someone calls him, like, Hanratty, and, like, I think they said it wrong.
Yeah,
I don't remember. How you say
Hanratty?
We'll just call him Carl. We'll call him Carl. Tom Hanks' character. Eventually they catch on that, like, someone's been using all these fraudulent checks.
Oh, yeah, so this is the last scene before he stops being a pilot, right?
Yeah, because that's when they go and chase him down in the hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, and I thought I was like, oh, damn, I was like, this was really bad. Because it was like, this one, when we first are, like, kind of introduced to Tom Hanks' character, because we see him in, like, flash forwards at the beginning and stuff, like when he's getting him out of the French prison and all that. And they're on the plane together. But this is, like, our proper introduction to him. And he's talking about the fraudulent checks. And then he's talking to the cop. And obviously, this is, like, so for the audience. The one cop is like, hey, we're not all experts in this. Why don't you tell us about the check thing? Like, why don't you explain it for it? Because, we're not all experts on that. I was like, I don't know if you thought the same thing. But I was like, that's, like, so clearly for the audience. You know what I mean? It's like the way it's written was like...
Okay, give us some information.
Yeah. I thought that was funny. But I did kind of need it, though, because I didn't really understand the check fraud thing. And it's like, him redirecting it to the... I still don't really fully understand it.
Was interesting. Basically what it is, and because I also had the benefit of, like, hearing it explained.
You also have the benefit of having done this multiple times.
And I do have the added benefit of doing this for multiple years across multiple countries.
That is a joke for any FBI agents listening.
Yes. Don't investigate that further. So, I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into it. Like, there's more aspects of it. Mm. But basically there's... In terms of banking, there are 12 areas in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Atlanta is one of them.
And let's say it is. So let's say you're in Atlanta, Evan, and you cash a check, and it bounces. Mm-hmm. It will bounce that day.
Yeah, immediately. But as we see what happens with him when he gets kicked out of the hotel.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then if you have a check, let's say you're in Atlanta and you have a check with the...
California one.
The check for the California number, it'll take 6 days for it to bounce. So basically he would stay in hotels for 3 days at a time, so he could, have an ample amount of time to do that. And that's about it.
That is about it.
I'm sure there's more different intricacies to it.
But that's all we needed.
For the movie, that was what they were interested in having you. But that is also true to life, where if you look down at the bottom of a check, you know how there's like, not your account number or or whatever, but like the actual, just the number on the check. On the bottom, it's 1 through 12.
Yeah.
So you can actually look at that for yourself.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I feel like when the tellers are like first taking the check, they're not really paying attention to that. And then the fact that like he dressed at the pilot too is like they're even less likely to suspect anything. You know what I mean?
And plus, if you're a pilot.
Yeah, of course. You're like,
maybe you did get your check in Atlanta.
Yeah,
maybe you did get your check in California. It doesn't...
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's kind of an introduction to Tom Hanks' character. And then they find him in the hotel he's staying at. I forgot, like somebody gives him a tip or something. I don't remember. Do you remember how they find him the first time in the hotel?
How do they find him in the hotel?
I think somebody tells him, like, oh, there's someone being a pilot or something was saying. I don't remember.
Well, basically, they were questioning someone, and then the guy that they're questioning lets it slip that he's still there.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh shit. They're like, oh shit, thank you, and they go up to the room.
Yeah, because he had one of the checks, one of the.
Yeah, it was basically just a cashier.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and he's like, I don't want you bothering my customers, or whatever. And he's like, oh, he's still here. Yeah. And then they go up to the room, and he pulls a little clever con here, pretending to be part of the Secret Service, and that they already caught the guy, and he's pretending he's like his neighbor or whatever.
That might be like the best con in the movie.
It is pretty good. He asked him for his credentials, but he never actually checked the wallet.
And they say something interesting too, which I like that quote of, like, why do the Yankees always win or whatever? It's because they're always looking at the pinstripes or whatever, however the quote goes. But it's basically it's like Spider-Verse. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Basically, in Spider-Verse, it's like, don't watch the mouth, watch the hands.
Oh, okay.
So it's like...
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's like a thing in Spider-Verse. Because it's like... That part where Miles has Peter tied up. And then Peter's talking all this shit. And it gives him enough time to free himself from being trapped. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like that. It's like... It's just misdirection. It's acknowledging, like, misdirection is, cool.
Yeah. And he does do a bit.
Which it is.
He does do a bit of misdirecting here, doesn't he?
So that's the same thing with the wallet, and he gives the wallet with so much confidence and everything that he doesn't feel bothered to check it. And and then he has like those friends like with the handicapped father and the son, and they're getting in the car, and he kind of plays it off like they're the
other Secret Service agent. Yeah, and that the old guy is the criminal.
Yeah, he plays it off like they caught him and they're about to drive away.
Yeah. That was a good scene.
Yeah, it's a very good scene.
He was about to blow his brains out.
He was about to blow. Tom Hanks was like, I have my tool. I'm ready. I'm about to. He was not kidding around.
Oh no, he was certainly
Tom Hanks in that scene. He was not joking.
He certainly was not.
No, sir.
He was gonna kill him.
He was going to kill him. Yeah, you're for sure.
But of course he escapes with the typewriter and everything. And he's like, oh, that old what name was he going by? Barry Allen. That old Barry Allen. There he goes, running away. As Barry Allen's known to do, of course. There he is. And then at some point he that's basically when he goes to Atlanta, right? After that.
Yeah, so that's when he's like, okay, well, I'm fucked. Like,
yeah,
that personality.
They're on my tail, the FBI. Oh, and while this was all happening, of course, I just want to mention this. He's been writing to his dad about his like kind of escapades as a pilot or whatever. So I feel like at first, at least, it's like he's kind of doing it to kind of like make his dad proud. Mm-hmm. In kind of like a noble sense, though. Like, oh, look, I became this pilot or whatever. I'm almost trying to do like what his dad wasn't able to. You know what I mean? Like become like this successful person. Until eventually later, it's like more like he wants his dad to stop him. Yeah. And then, of course, he doesn't. Yeah. So, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Like his reason for doing it kind of switches. You know what I mean?
At first it was kind of like, oh, I want my dad to think I'm a career man.
Yeah,
I'm making a career for myself. Mm-hmm. But then, as he can feel it kind of falling apart,
he wants his dad to be like, stop him. Yeah,
a father figure, and stop him. Yeah.
Which of course he doesn't.
Which he does not.
He thinks it's badass that the government's after his son.
Which I like all the scenes with Christopher Walken.
Yeah, me too. He's great. He's really great in this movie.
And I think we may have skipped the first one where he goes back and sees his dad. Because that's before he becomes a doctor. He goes and has dinner with his dad, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's at the point where like, oh, it's very successful. The FBI hasn't talked to him yet.
Yeah, and he bought him the what kind of car did
Cadillac.
He buy? The Cadillac. Mm-hmm. He bought him the Cadillac, but he says, "I know I don't want it."
Well, it's interesting because when I first saw that scene, I thought like, does he know that he's not really a pilot? Is that why he doesn't want the car?
No, he says it because he doesn't want the IRS to see him driving.
Right. But let's say the IRS or like the FBI or whatever does question him as to like, where'd you get this car?
Mm.
And then they try and trace it back to the son, and they're like, okay, where did the son get the money? The son is fucked.
Yeah. Well, I think that, obviously, that would happen, too. And that kind of goes again to show, like, kind of his, like, childlike, not negligence, like, ignorance, I guess.
Naivete.
Yeah, naivete. But, yeah, no, I think that is part of, but, like, I felt like, I feel like that's kind of, like, part of his con, though. The dad's. It's like, oh, I don't want the government seeing me with this shit or whatever, you know what I mean? But he certainly could know that his son is bullshitting. He probably does know, because it's like, how the fuck did you become
a 16-year-old go and get a pilot's license immediately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows like how he's a shitty dad, too, because he doesn't really give a fuck. Well, both of his parents are kind of shit. Like, he's run away, and neither of them really, like, make any effort to try and...
Yeah, because the FBI goes and talks to his mom, too, and she's just kind of like, oh, I hope he's okay. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, neither of them...
really make much of an effort.
Because, like, the dad is like, oh, he's badass.
Yeah.
And then, like, the mom is kind of just, like, apathy. Like, she just doesn't care.
Yeah, she's more concerned with the new life she's making for herself. She probably just wants to completely distance herself
Which is fucked.
Yeah. Because we see, like, later at the end of the movie, she has a new child with her new husband. So probably for her, it's more like, I don't want, that sounds so fucked up, but it's like she doesn't want anything to do with her old life. Damn, that's sad.
That is fucked up.
Dylan, as Patrick Williams said, this is the most fun, deeply sad movie. But yeah. But yeah. Good point. Bringing up that scene, their first dinner together. Yeah. And I also like when he's like, because he says this again in the next time they see the next and last time they see each other. When he's like, where are you going tonight? Somewhere exotic?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says that it's him again the last time they see each other.
That one is really sad.
I know, right? Yeah.
Because it's like, the fact that, he's like not a pilot anymore.
Yeah.
And kind of the acknowledgement of he knows what his life is now.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. Yeah, it's fucked up.
It is sad.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most fun, deeply sad movie.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. Actually, yeah, now that I'm like thinking about his name, I'm like, yeah, Dylan definitely has mentioned him before.
I have.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll have to check him out.
He has really shitty, like, like YouTube reviewers that have, like, a story mode.
What do you mean by that?
Like, where they have, like, skits that, like, connect together. And,
like that nostalgia critic
yes,
shit?
Yes,
yeah.
It's like, like, say one, like, this week we're reviewing The Godfather, and next week we're reviewing, like, Superman 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, like, for some reason there's, like, that through line of, like, the reviewer and his, like, friends.
Yeah,
like, they have, like, a story element. It's so
He
bad.
has that? Oh,
yeah,
Lord.
It's so bad, man. Because he'll do, like, the top 10 movies of the year, and then he'll do a retrospective about, like, movie title sequences, and then there's, like, 5 minutes at the beginning and the end of each video that, like, connect together of those two videos, lame. And it's like, dude, like...
I don't even think... Does Nostalgia Critic even do that?
Sometimes,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
He does. Sometimes he does. But that's the worst part.
Keep your skits self-contained.
Hey, maybe fucking humble yourself, Patrick Williams, and just talk about what we want you to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to RNS Podcast. We're clearly much more successful than you. So.
I mean, well, at least we don't fucking make up cool stories.
Maybe
I know. I feel like if you have that itch as a YouTuber, it's like just make a short film, or something. Like, I hate the... Oh no, like, the evil critic is back of, like, me in a black t-shirt. I fucking hate that shit.
Fucking Cal Chuchesta.
Yeah. I hate that shit, but... Anyways, no, but Pat, he does... cut out that, like, first 5 minutes and this, like, last 5 minutes or whatever the skits are, or, like, the storyline. He makes good videos.
Yeah.
Outside of that. But, catch me if you can.
Catch me if you can.
Catch me if you're able.
Yeah, catch me if you're able to do that.
Apprehend me if you're able to.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
And then I think was it after the first time he sees his dad again? Is that when he calls Tom Hanks? I think it is, right?
Maybe.
And he's like, "Oh, it's Barry," and he calls him on the phone, like, because it's like he calls him each Christmas Eve or Christmas or whatever, and they talk. It doesn't matter, like I said, the details don't matter. Who cares? We're looking at the bigger picture. He calls him for the first time, and I forgot exactly what he said to him the first time, but the gist of the whole scene is like, oh, he's calling him because at that point it's like you already know, like, okay, eventually I'm gonna get caught. He tells him that when they're even talking on the phone because he's been figured out already. He's just working on his second scam, but he's like, oh, he has no one else to call, which Tom Hanks calls him out on.
Yeah, because like Frank, like he tries to roast him at first.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Oh, you're working on Christmas, like you're gay," and then
yeah, he's like, "I thought you were married because I thought I saw a ring on your finger the first time you met." He's like, "Nope, I have no family."
Yeah, and he's like, I stayed like so like the other guys could go home for Christmas early or whatever, which is nice.
It was nice.
You know, it's a nice thing.
Thank you, Carl.
We do have to mention though, before we continue, Tom Hanks' accent.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
It sucks.
Yeah, please, filmmakers, please stop giving Tom Hanks accents. It's not working. Elvis, I mentioned that in whatever episode. Well, I mentioned it briefly in our retrospective 2022 episodes, but also another episode, I forgot which one, where I briefly reviewed Elvis at the beginning.
Probably like right after you saw Elvis.
Yeah, I don't remember which episode it was on, but Tom Hanks, yeah, he has an accent in that movie. It's fucking awful. Please stop. Just let Tom Hanks talk like normal. This movie would be no different if he was just normal Tom Hanks.
Well, to his credit, the IRL Frank Abagnale Jr. said that he nailed the accent.
Did he really?
He said that.
Well,
but it's also like
I don't even know what was his accent supposed to be.
It was supposed to be Boston.
Okay.
And it was terrible.
The fact that I could not tell, I feel like that.
There's moments where it's like, is this a Southern accent? Is this?
You know, it's funny. Joey said that he's like, I think it was a Southern accent, right? That's what he said to me. I'm like, maybe.
It's hard to even tell, but it was supposed to be Boston.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Or was it Chicago?
I think it was Boston.
Okay, because I thought later when he's working at that FBI, I thought he said, "Oh, I'm flying home to Chicago."
I could be wrong, but
or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he said Boston.
Either way, his accent sounds like nothing.
Yeah, it's
just the shitty accent.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump is a good accent.
Yeah, that's Southern. That is Southern.
That's a good accent. Yeah. And I recently saw, unrelated to my research on Frank Abagnale Jr., I recently saw like some YouTube short of some clip of Tom Hanks talking about how he got that accent. It was the author of Forrest Gump that he was talking to.
Oh, really?
So he got the accent from him, I think.
Oh, nice. That
was pretty funny.
Thank you, Tom Hanks.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, yeah.
Oh, and also the Terminal. He has like
an accent in the Terminal?
He has because he's Russian.
That's so stupid. The real Terminal guy isn't even Russian. You know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen The Terminal. But I know he has the Russian accent.
The Terminal is also based on a real guy.
Yeah. Also having to do with planes. Also directed by Steven Spielberg.
And he's not even Russian. The real guy. The real guy is like Indian. And he's claiming to be British.
Really?
Yeah. In IRL.
Again, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah,
I just know it's Steven Spielberg directed with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it's based on a real story. The real story is much... I haven't seen The Terminal, to be fair, but the real story is really interesting as well.
I guess I'll have to check that movie out soon. The
Terminal.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out
Let's work our way through Spielberg's filmography.
Yeah. And in collaboration with Tom Hanks.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Did Spielberg work on... didn't he work on, what's it called? The Christmas Train?
Polar Express?
Yeah.
That is Robert Zemeckis directed film, but
doesn't work on
he might have been a producer.
I think he was.
I'm not sure.
I think he was something. That's not relevant. That's not relevant to our beautiful Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, he might have been a producer on it. I'm not sure, honestly.
But the point
that movie sucks. So.
I think he was involved in it because he's like an animation guy.
Yeah.
You know, I think he was involved in it somehow. And the fact that Tom Hanks
and him and Robert Zemeckis are already like
they're cool,
pretty involved with each other's careers.
Yeah. They dab each other up.
More so, Spielberg with Zemeckis'. It's not like a Steven Spielberg film produced by Robert Zemeckis. It's always the other way around. Yeah.
He gives him a little sauce.
Yeah. Did he produce Forrest Gump, Spielberg?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Yeah.
They keep it in the cut.
He produced all of Zemeckis' good movies.
Yeah, he tries that. He's like, you know what? If this is decent, I'll slap my name on it. You know.
Maybe I give Spielberg a little credit for some of Robert Zemeckis' good film. Who knows?
No.
I'm just saying, maybe it's certainly a possibility.
Leave Zemeckis alone.
It's certainly a possibility. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what I'm saying is Zemeckis is already like not respected, so just give him what he has. Let him have what he has, and that's it. You know, just leave him alone.
Yeah, because he directed. Robert Zemeckis did direct Roger Rabbit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Spielberg produced that.
Well, no.
Back to the Future.
No. Leave him alone. Just leave him alone. He doesn't have much already, Evan. Please.
Oh, those are all classics, though.
They are. Yeah, they are. All thanks to solely Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah. But yeah. What were we saying? Yeah, the phone. Oh, Tom Hanks' shitty accent. But yeah, they had the phone call with each other, and then he's like, "Oh, you got no one else to call."
Yeah, and that pisses off Leo.
Yeah, he just
Leo
hangs
Cap.
up. He just hangs up.
Very angrily.
Yeah. But you know what? He should have did, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, he should have did some self-reflection, because he also has nobody to speak to on Christmas. Christmas of all days, no family. What is how tragic?
What a sad life.
I know, it's very tragic.
What a sad life.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, like, I wonder in real life or in the movie, is there a point where he could have given up and, like, not been in trouble? I don't know.
At that point, he already stole over $1 million, so I feel like he...
But, like,
or why he'd be fucked.
If you give up, like, when you're 18.
Yeah, well, he tried to, remember?
When he's 18?
No, he... I don't remember what age it was, but remember... When he's about to get married, he's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
He kind of, well, that scene is really funny.
Yeah. I think that's the second time he has, like, the phone call, because I think he has, like, 3 Christmas encounters with Tom Hanks.
Yeah. And the last one is the climax, right?
Yeah.
But that one is really funny because he kind of, it's very childish still, you know, in the way that he kind of calls and he's like, just stop chasing me. Yeah. Like he wants to give up and for it to all be over, but he doesn't want any consequences.
Yeah.
So I really like that scene. And he comes to learn, Evan, that the bill always comes due.
Oh, true. Very true. Very true.
Yes. But that was interesting. So you want to talk about his time as a doctor?
Yeah.
So his time as a doctor starts. I don't remember why he visits the hospital in the first place. Do you remember?
He's throwing that party at his apartment, and one of his friends ends up going to the hospital. Remember, he's looking for him, and that's when he meets Amy Adams.
So he's trying to kind of shice his way into going to visit his friend in the hospital. Is that right? And then,
I think he, like, at first it's, like, genuine, but then, of course, he has the con man brain, so it's like, oh, I can turn this into a con.
So he sees, and that's one interesting thing, too, that the real one said, that nothing he did was ever planned. Everything was always opportunity.
Yeah.
Which comes through in the movie as well. Which I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, so he meets Amy Adams, beautiful, young, hopefully legal young Amy Adams.
I read she was already 28.
In this?
Yeah.
It really? Catch Me If You Can?
Someone on Letterboxd said that, so...
There's no way she's 28.
Well, we can look it up.
Because then she would be 50 by now.
She'd be 50? The movie's 20 years old.
She would be 50.
So she's almost 50.
If she was 28 in Catch Me If You Can...
Yeah, so...
She would be 50 now. There's no way she's
almost
50.
20
Really?
years. 20 years. When this movie comes... Yeah, she was 28. She was born in 1974.
Wow.
So yeah, she was 28.
They did a really good job making her look young in this. Maybe it's the
probably
braces.
just her.
Well, yeah, she just has a beautiful young flesh where she just, she consumes the plasma.
Well, like we were saying, we were like, oh, is she 50? Like, so she just looks young.
Well, she looks good.
Yeah,
she looks good.
She does.
But yeah, so Leonardo DiCaprio, he's a bit taken with her. They bond a little bit, He has kind of a... I don't know, it kind of plays earnest to me where he's trying to cheer her up.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like a con where he's just trying to fuck her or something.
No, I agree.
Seems like he's actually trying to cheer her up, which is nice. And of course he wants to go see his friend in the hospital. Because he happens upon her right when she's being kind of... Berated.
Yeah.
By her...
One of the doctors.
Her boss, basically, her doctors. And so he cheers her up a bit, gives her a bit of self-confidence. And then, they have a bit of a fuck in the office.
Well, that's later. That's after he actually becomes the doctor.
Yeah.
Because he asks her, "Oh, are they hiring doctors or whatever?"
Yeah. It's so funny the way he says that too. Is like, "Oh, are they hiring? I'm a doctor."
Yeah.
It's like, "Are you?"
And she got a little excited.
She said, "Oh."
And she got excited.
She said, "Leo." But it's crazy because she kind of almost looks younger than him in this.
Yeah.
And I think he's older than her. I think she's older than him.
Older than Leo? They're like almost the same
close.
age, I think. Yeah.
They're close. But yeah, she looks really young. So good for her for good for the makeup, and hair people on this movie. They did a good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Partially it's probably because she looks so pale.
They're the same age. They're both born in 1974.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So Leo was also 28 when he...
Leo's old, man. Damn.
He's not quite 50 yet.
Time flies.
When you're having fun.
Time truly does fly when you're rubbing elbows with the Hollywood elites.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's an interesting little relationship. And I didn't expect them... Because I think he earnestly does kind of fall for her.
Yeah.
That's pretty real.
I would say so because when their wedding falls apart later, he's like, he wanted her to come with him.
He's pretty devastated by that. And that was so good.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into that in a little bit. Mm. But, so what else do you want to talk about in terms of his time as a doctor?
Well, he's scamming at the doctor. And of course,
scamming as the doctor?
This is like... Because with the Pan Am thing, like we mentioned, he just had to do the deadhead thing, so he didn't really have to do anything. This was like flying closer to the sun.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's actually hired.
Yeah, as a doctor.
Because in terms of like the pilot role, there was no like he wasn't hired. He scammed his way into the outfit, and he was like doing check fraud.
Yeah,
but this was a real job where he faked the credentials. But he actually was hired. Yeah.
And it's like, he takes like the position where it's like, they're like, oh, you're like way too qualified for this. And basically kind of just being like a supervising manager or something like that. He was for like a night shift.
He was basically supervising like younger doctors.
Yeah.
I forget what they're called. Like residents or something.
I don't know.
Whatever the fuck they're called. He was basically like babysitting young doctors.
Yeah. And the nurses.
And his game would basically be like, what do you think, doctor? Sounds good.
Yeah,
Do what you want.
And then we see that one moment where he's actually called to, like, do something, and he just, like, he has to, like, talk his way out of it and, like, get them to do it. When he's about to have sex with Amy Adams for the first time.
He was trying to lay it down.
Yeah, he was. He's like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to...
It was funny, that line. It was really funny the way, good old Leo says it. He was like, you think I actually have to go? Like,
it was a good moment.
That was a good funny little moment.
It was a good funny little moment.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he's playing it riskier, obviously. Maybe intentionally.
Maybe he wants to get caught.
Maybe he wants to get caught? Oh, I don't know.
What a twisted psychopath.
Yeah. There is a moment later with Tom Hanks where they're like, oh, how do we know he's actually here? He could be in New York or Atlanta. This is... Oh, I'm skipping ahead a bit, but he's like, no, I know he's like, because I'm not there. I know he's here.
I know he's in Miami because I'm in Miami.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, like because there's an element of like... There is the element of he wants to get caught.
Yeah.
But there's also the element of like he wants to play the game with
Tom
exactly.
Hanks. Yeah.
So that was good. That was really good.
Reveling in the pursuit. I think that's what it said on Letterboxd. he revels in the pursuit.
Oh,
which some people do. It's like that in itself is kind of a thrill. You know what I mean? like just playing like so close to death. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That was a good one too, where it was similar to the. Of course, it was similar to the FBI moment, but like kind of a bit of a grander scale. You know, where he has to evade the entire police force.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and that kind of, it goes to what you were saying also, like earlier when the real guy was like, why the fuck would I call the FBI?
Right.
But it's like him, of course. It's like he low-key kind of wants to be caught, so of course he could have called
Frank Abagnale, the character.
Yeah.
You know, there's more. Well, I think there could be an like a more subdued version of that in real life, where it's like maybe he did want to get caught to some degree.
Yeah.
Because he said that he was like really sad doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, but in the movie,
and this was like the whole father thing, you know.
Yeah, in the movie, it's way more like it's an overt part of his character.
Yeah.
Which
and
of course,
it's like, because we see it's like a few times the rest of the FBI, they're kind of like, okay, whatever, like they don't give a fuck, but Tom Hanks is kind of like the only one who's like, no, we need to catch him, who's like keeping it going. So he keeps calling Tom Hanks because he knows he's gonna answer, or they're gonna keep coming after him or whatever. So and of course, spoilers a little bit for a bit later, but there's a reason Tom Hanks is also a bit obsessed with the case. Yeah, because they try to... I remember once at the beginning they try to let it go, and then once he leaves the U.S. later, they're like... They basically like, let's just give up on this. But Tom Hanks is like obsessed with it. So it's like he knows no matter what, Tom Hanks is going to like come after him. I mean, Carl.
Yeah, he's like the one guy.
Yeah.
That's still out there looking for him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too. It's like... like, I keep speaking about the real-life version of the case, but I have no idea in this instance... I don't think it's real at all, but just the idea of, in the movie when they're like, Tom Hanks, just give up. We're never going to find him.
Yeah.
We don't care. We wasted too much money. We don't care.
Yeah.
Like, imagine in real life.
That's such a... like, I feel like you see that in so many cop movies and shit,
right?
where they're like, you've been fucking the kid, you've been wasting all of our money.
You give up now on this case?
Exactly.
Yeah, like, imagine in real life.
That's a massive trope.
Like, that would be such a, like, if you're a criminal, it's like, yo, bad. Like I'm not worth it anymore, bad. Yeah. Like, I'm sure that didn't happen in real life, but...
Yeah.
Because the whole Tom Hanks narrative was, like retroactively put into place. Like, he's kind of, like, met him at the end when he was caught and then became friends with him.
Yeah.
So, of course, that didn't happen, but just the fact that when you see a movie and something like that happens, it's just like, if it weren't for this one fucking guy, you know?
Yeah. But like you said, like, you would think, like, any other criminal would be like, okay, cool, like, they don't give a fuck about me anymore, but, of course, it's like, there's a lonely teenager whose parents don't give a fuck about him, so it's like he needs something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like the one guy that's like, yay, like...
Yeah.
Thank God one guy is like going against his boss.
It's like one person cares about me, you know what I mean? Yeah. The most fun, deeply sad movie. To quote Patrick Wilhelm.
But to say, like, it does have a very happy ending.
No, it does,
Despite everything.
Yeah. And it's like, it even though it's like, yeah, they're enemies, when the climax happens, again, we've skipped because we were at the doctor thing, but who cares? The moment when he does finally catch him, it is like, you can see, like, Carl does kind of, like, genuinely care about him.
Yeah.
Even though, like, he kind of lies to him, but he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't think he really lies to him. Because there's a...
Yeah, because the cops do pull up. I don't know.
There's a moment of, like, oh, he did lie.
Yeah.
He kind of didn't.
Yeah, because the cops do pull up.
Yeah.
And then it's also, like, when they take him away, he's like, no, I promise you that we'll get you back to the U.S. or whatever. We're not going to keep you in a European prison or whatever. Yeah.
Which, is scary.
It is scary, yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Fuck the French.
Oh, yeah. Fuck the French.
Thanks for the Statue of Liberty. Other than that, like, stay away from me, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But, so the doctor thing, you know, he gets close to Amy Adams. He does fall for Amy Adams. Amy Adams' character.
Yeah.
Nurse Jackie or whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that was one of the funniest parts of the movie is, they're in bed together. And just, I don't remember specifically what was so funny about it to me, but just the way Amy Adams was acting was just like you can see, like, what's his name? You know, Leo wants to fuck, and then Amy Adams just, like, starts crying, and she's like, oh no, like, I'm a virgin, I'm sorry. And then she, like...
No, she's not a virgin.
Or, well, whatever it is. Like,
he thinks she's crying because she's a virgin, but then she's like, oh, I had an abortion.
Oh,
which, yeah.
And then... It's just funny because, like, you know, not to you know, kiss and tell, you know, but I've had moments like that where, like, a girl will, not even just a girl, right? Where someone is, like, in real life when people, like, kind of trauma dump or something, where it's like they have an in and they're sad about something, and then they just, like, keep going, and it's like, bitch, I thought we were talking about, like, having sex. Like, what are you talking about all this to your dad and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So that was really funny to me, because I feel like that's, like, real life, you know? But then, you know, Leo, he loves her. He does love her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but he grabs onto it. He's like, oh, what if your parents found out you're gonna be gay? Because their parents are basically, because they're religious, and she had an abortion, they kind of like...
Disowned her.
Yeah, basically. And he's like, what if they found out you're marrying a doctor? And it's like, I guess he kind of relates. Because obviously at that time, it's like, he doesn't really have a mom or a dad anymore. So it's like... You know, he Captain Save-A-Ho at that moment. So yeah, he went to help her out, and that's when he goes to Louisiana, and they just miss him, the FBI, because they come to Atlanta, which I want to talk about as well, because he finds out, oh, Barry Allen, he's a kid from like the waiter or whatever, his fake name. And then,
because Tom Hanks is like circling like every Barry Allen, like in every phone book or some shit, or in every newspaper or some shit like that. Or no,
on the checks, I thought was right.
Isn't he looking for the wedding? Is that what it is?
That comes later.
Oh,
that comes later once he's in Louisiana.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's looking for Barry Allen, and then like kind of the younger waiter is like, "Oh, do you like comic books?"
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks is like, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Go away. And he's like, "Oh, Barry Allen's a superhero."
Yeah.
And then so that's how he finds out, you know.
Yeah, and then he finds out he's from New York because on their phone call or whatever he mentioned, I think it was the Yankees.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, what does he say? Oh, the pinstripes.
Yeah.
Is the story about the pinstripes? It's like, oh, they always win because they're looking at the pinstripes.
Yeah.
You know, who is it? Mickey Mantle or some shit.
I don't fucking know.
They're like, oh, they don't win because of Mickey Mantle. They win because of the pinstripes.
Yeah. So he knows he's from New York and he knows he's a kid. So they just start looking for basically all the runaway teenagers from New York. And then that's when he comes to the mother's home and she's just like, it was only $1,000. Like he didn't know about the massive, or she didn't know about that he stole over $1 million.
She's like, oh, I work at Kroger now. Like I'll just pay whatever he stole.
Yeah.
And then at that point it's like, yeah, $1 million.
Yeah.
That was a funny moment too.
Yeah, and then he visits the dad as well. And then the dad's like, he's like, I'll never give up my son.
I like that part.
It was nice. It is nice.
I mean, it is like conflicting though, like you said, because the dad's like a bad person.
Yeah.
But I do like the moment where he's like...
And also, he doesn't try to stop him. Even if he didn't want to give him up, you would think like he would try and reach out and be like, why are you doing this?
On
like,
their terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, try and make him stop and be like, oh, come home.
Yeah.
But I do like the moment where like he comes up with a story... like instantly.
Oh, that he went to Vietnam.
He's like, where's your son? And he's like, he forged his paper. He's fighting for our country in Vietnam right now. You'll never find him, but he's noble and shit like that. I love that part. That part's awesome.
Yeah, he was quicker with the fake story than like his son.
Yeah. I love that. And then right away, Tom Hanks, of course, finds one
of the letters he wrote to him.
A letter from
and it was Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after he finds the letter, he's like, you already know I'll never go with my son.
Yeah.
And that would probably in real life put you in jail for like 10 years. Like, being caught with a bull-faced lie like that. Like,
Yeah.
Obstruction of justice and whatnot. But this is a fiction. This is a beautiful fiction.
It is, so it's okay. So, so then I'm assuming in real life, that's not how they found him in Atlanta. That's way too convenient.
No, because...
or if they even showed up in Atlanta at all.
Because, like I said, he never talked to his dad again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he didn't even write him letters.
No.
Yeah, okay, so yeah.
Oh, so that's fucked.
Damn. Deeply sad. Yeah, but by the time they pull up to Atlanta, it's too late because he went to Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
To try and get her hand in marriage. Oh. And then he becomes the lawyer there. Because the father is a lawyer.
And that's true.
Like, Amy Adams' character's father was a lawyer.
Pretty much the aspect of what happened... Amy Adams isn't a real person, but that was actually a stewardess.
Oh.
In real life, he was dating a stewardess.
So kind of like the other one that he had sex with at the beginning. I'm guessing. Remember he has sex with a stewardess and where he says, this is the best date I ever had.
Yeah.
It would be more like that character.
Yeah. So the stewardess, I guess, her dad was a lawyer, and then he got into being a lawyer that same way.
Yeah.
And in the movie, he legitimately they kind of like play it out throughout the movie a little bit, where it's like, oh, how did you like fake being a lawyer? How did you get that? And then he's like, I studied the bar and I passed the bar.
Yeah, which you find out at the end.
They
keep bringing it up, like, how the fuck did you pass the bar exam?
They play that out, but in real life, it's the same thing where he just like passed the bar. So it's kind of like, oh, how did you scam your way into being a lawyer? It's like, oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
So and then even in real life and the movie, he says kind of like, oh, I like faked being a lawyer. It's like, you kind of didn't.
Yeah.
You kind of just were a lawyer.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. And it kind of, there's a bit of foreshadowing for the end also, because he's like, one of the cases he's doing is like a check fraud case, and he like perfectly knows like all the shit wrong with the check or whatever. So kind of a bit of foreshadowing for the end when he ends up working with the FBI.
And you know what's interesting too? I found out from one of the interviews that the FBI in real life, you have to pass the bar in your state to become an FBI agent.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
It's kind of interesting. His son is an FBI agent as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, how about that? So he actually, I guess he had that under his belt already.
Yeah.
Or he had to pass the bar already.
Good job, Frank.
Interesting. Good job, Frank. Frank FJ, you know?
Frank FJ.
Yeah, good old FJ. And then also, I guess in real life, he did even more extravagant things in the FBI. I thought that was interesting, where he kind of did like cons, like for the FBI.
Yeah.
You know, where he would kind of like play a role.
Yeah, where he would trick some innocent victim into committing a crime so the FBI could arrest
him.
Yeah.
He would basically like plant evidence on, you know.
What a trickster.
Yeah, what a goofy guy. You know, what a silly little secret agent. You know? Yeah, he'd find liberals and, like, put, you know, bricks outside their house and everything. And, yeah.
What a silly guy.
What a silly dude.
But again, it's like, even with the lawyer thing, he does, like, he didn't really con his way into being a lawyer, because he genuinely passes the test.
I think that's why it's also an effective, like, quote-unquote, like, reveal. And it's not much of a reveal.
Yeah.
But it's, like, it's kind of an inversion, where it's like, oh, like, this was probably the hardest thing to con.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it wasn't a con, though.
Yeah.
So it's like yeah, it's interesting.
But still, but the bigger con, though, like, you know, having this other name, because he had to keep his name from Atlanta because he's with the same woman. I
have no idea if that was real, but no, it wasn't, because Amy Adams wasn't a real person. But I like that in the movie. It was awesome, where it was like, there's no way he changed his name because the girl thinks he's this guy. Oh,
but I'm gonna say, but it's like he keeps playing it riskier and riskier in that way. Yeah,
keeps playing it looser and looser.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, like, you're not even hired by the airline. You're just posing.
Yeah, and then actually becoming a practicing lawyer as well.
And then getting hired as a doctor with fake credentials.
Yeah.
And then having genuine, real credentials as a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it progresses.
It does, yeah.
What I was going to say, do you know what the second name is a reference to?
What is it? I forgot his second. It's Frank. Oh, and also using his actual first name too.
Yeah.
Frank. Oh, yeah. I forgot what was it? It's like Frank Scott or something.
Nah.
I forgot. What is it? I don't remember his second name.
You don't remember?
Yeah, it's Frank
Connors.
Something. Frank Connors.
And what would his name be? What would his title be?
Dr. Connors.
There you go.
As in the lizard?
Yeah.
Is that legit? Like, is that a comic book reference?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was or not. Like, that might be a coincidence.
No, I don't think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, because the way it plays in the movie is, like, the first time you hear the name is, like, some nurse or something being like, oh, Dr. Connors.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, boy, I know what you're doing. So I think that one is a reference.
Yeah. Because, like, obviously the Flash thing is very overt because you see him reading the comics and then obviously running. You know what I mean?
And
the poster is literally them running. So, like,
and also the fucking waiter comes up and explains it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Barry Allen is the Flash.
Yeah. Like, they don't ever show him with any Spider-Man comics or anything, but yeah, I guess so.
I think it's
very
real.
subtle. Yeah.
Just because hearing, like, they don't call him Frank Connors, obviously they call him Dr. Connors.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit. And that would, the Lizard was pretty new.
He was
back in the 60s.
He was.
So I don't know if that was even accurate to the time.
Good question.
Because you just looked it up. When did you say this? Like, he started, Like,
well, it starts like when he's a teenager in 63, and then the movie ends in 67. But I don't know when he started. Probably like, I guess 65 because it takes place over a span of 2 or 3 years or whatever.
The Lizard is like 63.
Something like that, yeah.
So I think, yeah, it could be a Lizard reference.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I have to ask Steven.
Hey, Steven, was this a reference to Lizard?
I had to ask him. I'll send him an email.
He'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about Marvel. Evan, will James Cameron direct a Marvel movie?
No, he will not. He will never do that.
Well, can we do a quick interlude?
Okay.
I just want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Who do you think is more likely to direct an MCU movie? Steven Spielberg or James Cameron? Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
I guess. I think if maybe it was 10 years ago, but I think at this point it's James Cameron just because Steven Spielberg is just too old, and he just.
But James Cameron's pretty old dude. They're around the same age.
But I think there's an aspect of Steven Spielberg now that feels like he's just like, he's winded down. He's just making whatever he wants. Like he's just making like.
I guess so, but it kind of feels that way with James Cameron also. He's just like, I just want to do Avatar.
I guess that's true, but it just feels like his like. James Cameron's sensibility of like what he feels like doing right now would be more aligned with a Marvel project.
I guess so, yeah.
And plus, he's still within Disney.
Either way, neither one of them are going.
Neither of them will or should ever make an MCU movie. So
yeah,
that's all right. That's okay. But I just thought about that just now because of good old Steven Spielberg.
Because of outside forces.
Because of outside forces, playing with little neurons in my head. So. But yeah, so he goes to the marriage.
Is your Marvel Legends figures all have chips in them that are directly sending signals to your brain? You think that's a joke? You're laughing, but that's real.
I'm laughing because they're telling me to laugh.
What would you be scared if like say like a piece of the head like opened up or something? You saw a little chip inside. Would you be scared?
Inside like the lizard's head.
Yeah.
And then like it like blinks every time I like take a breath.
Yeah. Would you be scared?
No. I would say this is my lot in life. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here for them to... They send me ideas for super chats to send to John Campea, and then I send them, and that's my life.
In all honesty, I would feel like more likely for... That would be like... If any of the I would believe the pop figures are evil before the Marvel Legends. I don't know how you feel, but like...
Well...
Just the fact that they're more like... Way more commercialized.
Pop figures, yeah, because pop figures are like... They're like the corporate like, bullshit thing. You would expect them to almost have something evil inside them. Like, we just saw Megan,
We did just see
like
Megan.
some Megan shit.
Yeah.
Like those little Furbies in Megan. Yeah.
But luckily they're just plastic, so you don't have to worry about that.
Fucking... You see them, their eyes turn fucking red for 1 millisecond.
I would be scared.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, and as we mentioned, he has this. He's coming to Louisiana, becomes a lawyer. We see that there's a moment where he sees her parents kind of like dancing together, and he becomes kind of sad because obviously he's thinking about his own parents, how he doesn't have that family. That's sad.
You know what moment stood out to me? They're watching TV.
Oh, also it's Martin Sheen is the dad. But yeah, I do want to. Yeah, and they're all singing together as a family, and of course he's like kind of left out.
Well, because that's not like his. He doesn't know that show.
Yeah,
that's kind of like I guess like a bonding show that they watch together. And then fucking he gets cucked by the dad because like Amy Adam like scooches over into his lap, and I feel like that drove it home a little even a little too far.
Well, what do you mean?
Like. Where it's like, oh, he's left out, and it's like, oh, his wife, like, gets in the dad's lap. It's like...
Yeah, for sure, yeah. That was sad.
That was good. Sad. That was a fun, sad scene.
Yeah, it was a fun, sad scene.
Yeah.
This is the most fun, deeply sad movie. Patrick Williams.
Accurate. Very accurate.
And yeah, when it made me sad though when he sees her parents like dancing together. I was like, oh, that's sad.
That was a good moment. Yeah,
because early in the movie we see.
I was gonna say that's one of the first things we see is like
when they're still happy.
Yeah,
they're still
his mom and dad like lovingly dancing together.
Yeah, when they're still happy together.
That was a really nice moment.
It was.
She the wife spills wine on the carpet.
Yeah, and he didn't give a fuck.
And the dad is like, oh, I don't care. You know what's interesting? No, this isn't interesting. I'm sorry. But it's kind of funny.
You know what's fun but deeply sad?
You know what's fun but deeply sad? No, I expected, I didn't know anything about this movie. Even less than you did. So, when she spilled the wine on the carpet, I half expected him to hit her.
Yeah, you could be like, oh, what the fuck?
You bitch!
No, they're still a loving family.
No, they're very loving. Yeah. And I love that moment. Like, just divorced from the entire movie. It's just a beautiful little moment.
Yeah.
And the way that, like, they make the stain worse.
Yeah, like, because he looks at it when
not only do they ignore the stain, but they make the stain worse by dancing on it, and, like, they spread it and mash it into the carpet. But they don't care because they're a happy little family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment.
It was a sweet moment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little moment. Too bad his life was ruined shortly after.
True. That is true.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, I was going to mention the wedding, but even before the wedding is the last time he sees his dad, because he invites him to the wedding there.
And he doesn't go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And he might have had the call with Tom Hanks already by that point when he asked him to stop chasing him. It's either right after he sees his dad again or before, but yeah, he sees his dad, and basically his dad kind of... It's kind of fucked up. His dad kind of hit rock bottom. Because he's like, yeah, your mom, she won't see me. She's married to somebody else.
Oh, there's a lot to say about this. I have to blow my nose so bad.
Oh, yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Hello, my name is Didi. This is a secret Easter egg.
Okay, yes, we're back. And we're going to talk about the fun but deeply sad scene, as this movie is known for being.
Yes. Widely in all of our circles, yes.
Where he sees his dad for the last time.
Okay, yes.
And as I was saying, his dad kind of hit rock bottom by this point. And he said when he sees him, he's like, "Oh, Dad, why are you dressed like that?" Because I guess, his dad, like, before he dressed nice, he wore the nice suits and all that. But now he's just wearing, like he works for, like, the post office or something, I think, right?
Yes, post office outfit,
yeah. Which is, like, I was like... It's
kind of a respectable job.
No, I'm going to say, I'm like, that's like, you don't got to talk to your dad like that. But I kind of understand, though, because, like, that was kind of the way his dad was raising him before. It's like, oh, you got to present yourself, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he would always present, like, as, like, even if he was, like, dirt poor, he would try to present himself as, like, well off.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like I feel like in Leo's head, it's like, at this point he doesn't know, because at the end, of course, he comes to get a government job as well, so he kind of ends up in a weirdly similar position as his dad.
Right.
Yeah. But he's like, oh, he mentioned he started working for the government or whatever, and it's like, I think for him, it's like, oh, he doesn't see that at this point as, like, being respectable, just working this normal job, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because he spent all this time faking doing jobs he thinks his dad would think is respectable.
Yeah,
and then to go back and see, like, oh, I've, like, tried so hard to fake being a doctor and a lawyer and a pilot that, to come back and see you doing, like, a blue-collar job.
Yeah, He's like, oh, why are you dressed like that, Dad? He's like, we'll get you a nice suit. Get you back with Mom. That's what he says.
Yeah, so when he sees his dad and when he writes his dad, every time he's always saying, like, oh, like, we'll go talk to Mom.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Mom. And there's kind of, like, not a lot of acknowledgement back, like, from the dad.
Yeah.
Well,
we don't even... Does he write back to him at all? I
don't think so.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's out of, like, malice. I think it's just like, well, you're... criminal.
Yeah, he would get caught as well, yeah. And also, at least at the beginning, he's moving from hotel to hotel, so it's not really possible.
It's hard to get to him anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like, he would never put, like, a return address.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where you actually hear the dad kind of shut it down, where he's like, your mom doesn't want to be with me
anymore.
Yeah,
she don't want to see me. Yeah. He's like, what? And he's like, then he finds out, oh, she got remarried. So he's been completely out of the loop on that. And yeah, I want to say, so, like, obviously we're saying, like, yeah, his parents aren't the great, but at the same time, it's like, because of what he's been doing, he's also kind of, like, it's a bit of his fault also, being isolated from the shit that's happening in his parents' lives.
I was thinking about that, too, would him and his parents be in, like, a similar situation even if he didn't run away?
Yeah.
Like, would his mom, like, the way you said, like, I didn't think about it like this, but I think you're right, like, the way she distances herself so far from her original family.
Yeah.
Like, would it still be the same if,
Yeah, it's a good question.
Let's say if, Leo wrote down, like, his mom and he stayed with his mom. Like, would he be, like, a loved, like, big brother figure to that little girl?
Yeah.
Or not? I don't know.
It's certainly a good question.
It's a bit interesting.
The movie doesn't give you too many solid answers on that, so we're left to ponder.
Oh, yeah.
If you will.
I love a bit of pondering.
Me too. Who knows?
Yeah, how would him and his family and his relationship to his parents, how would have that turned out?
Yeah, good question. We're just left to ponder. But, what made me think was like, okay, like, obviously his parents aren't the best, and, like, they let him kind of just run around. They haven't done much to try and get back. But at the same time, it's kind of his fault, too. It's like, well, like, the reason you don't know anything about what's going on in your parents' life is because you've been gone is the reason. And then, there's like two specific things, like, oh, his mom getting remarried. It's like, he had no fucking clue that even happened. And then the fact that his dad fucking dies later, he didn't even know until Tom Hanks' character tells him once they fly back. So it's like, him being gone from that is like, well, he doesn't even know anything that's happening. So my point is that it's like, it's on him a bit as well, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I mean, even though he was a kid when he left, it still is on him.
Yeah. But yeah. So he tells him that his mother she's either getting remarried or she already did remarry. I think she did remarry, and she got with his friend, the guy who gave him the Rotary Award, as we mentioned. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. And he mentions that the IRS is still kind of like after him or whatever.
Watching him and shit.
Yeah, and he said he wanted to sue them.
Yeah.
I don't fully know what's going on with his own shit, and the movie doesn't really explain, so it doesn't matter much. All you need to know is basically like his dad has a like obviously on a much lower scale kind of level problem with the government as well. And he said he said to him here though, he's like, oh, they'll never catch me. He says that to fucking his son. And then he tells them basically like, oh yeah, I know the FBI is looking after you, is after you, because his encounter with Tom Hanks, with Carl, and he said to him, he's like they're never gonna get you. So he's like egging on his son basically. And
I think there's an element of, and this isn't to speak on the real life, characters, real life people.
Yeah.
But for the characters of the movie, I mean, I think there's an element of, like, he sees this, like, freedom in his son that he doesn't have himself.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, of course the wealth, but the freedom mostly is, like, the last thing he says to him, right, is, like, where are you going?
Yeah. And
I think there's an element of, like, wish fulfillment in that, where he's like, oh, like, to be my son, to be able to just leave and go anywhere.
Yeah.
And there's also, I think there's an element of, like, that in him wanting to sue the government. Where he's like,
I thought it was funny when he's like, they'll never catch me, and he's like, you want to sue them. I don't know, I thought it was funny.
But I think there is like an element of that in wanting to sue the government, because there's this like, he's like upholding the idea that he's right, and that he's not, he can't be downtrodden, and he's the right one, he's the free one, whatever, shit like that. So I think he's like living vicariously through his son.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, and he also mentions there, at least I think it was here. When they met again for the first time or this? I can't remember, but basically that he had to shut down the store again. So his business, because he opens another store or whatever, and it didn't go well. Yeah, so he's in more shit basically, and that's why he took up the post office job. Yeah.
You alright?
But that was sad though. I agree. When he's like, "Oh, where are you going?" Like, because he's like, he tells him basically that, "Oh, I want to stop." And he's like, "Why don't you try and stop me?" And he's like, "No, they're never gonna catch you." He just tells him like, whatever. I don't remember his exact words, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah, just mostly what I took away from it was like, him.
And that's I didn't really think about that, but yeah, he kind of envies his son, the position he's in.
Like, because Leo wants a father figure, and then kind of the dad, like, wants his youth back, or his, like, that opportunity that his son's taken.
Yeah.
So they have conflicting wants.
Yeah, for sure. And he says, "Oh, why don't you stop me," or whatever, which, I was like, yeah, that's the kind of another, like, tell moment where it's, like, basically the movie telling you exactly what's going on. It's like, "Oh, why don't you stop me?" He wants to be caught, whatever. And yeah, it was sad when he leaves after that. And he's like, "Oh, where are you going tonight? Somewhere exotic? Hawaii?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know." It was really sad.
Yeah, that one hurts.
Yeah, it did.
That one hurts.
I shed a tear. I shed multiple tears. No, actually, I didn't cry watching it.
No, I didn't cry.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
but
cry.
It's sad. It's sad.
But I said, dang.
Yeah, me too. I was like, it wasn't a tear sad. It was like a damn sad.
Damn.
Or a dang. Or a dang. I was like, damn. That really just happened. That's what I said. I looked at my screen and said, damn, that really just happened.
Yeah, I looked into my phone camera and I said,
but yeah, and then after that, if when the FBI raids his wedding, because again, I mean, Dad doesn't Dad even explicitly say why he won't come to the wedding?
Well, I think what happens is he says, I want you in. He's like, oh, I haven't seen your mom in X amount of time, and then he's like,
he wants them to pull up fresh to the wedding, to win his mother back, and he's like, yeah, she's gonna come with us and everything. He's like, I'm gonna get you that new suit. He's like, oh, that is a nice suit.
And then I think that the way that Dad shuts down the wedding thing is basically when he says like, oh, your mom doesn't want anything to do with me. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and that's like what he says, like, oh, she won't even see me, and I think that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, what you had mentioned, just like. She basically just cut them off completely. Yeah, it's like she just wants to start a new life.
And that they also kind of hinted that in the beginning of the movie when they first start getting the divorce and they first like have Junior sign the papers.
Yeah. She's not really fighting for like neither one of them really are like
want custody.
Yeah.
But there's like the dad is like being more agreeable.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, don't worry, son, we'll all see each other all the time still. And the mom's like, fuck you, no we won't.
Yeah.
Or she doesn't say that, but she's like, no, or like, she looks mad or something. So you kind of get that idea about them and how it's going to go from the beginning.
Yeah. Also similar to because the divorce scene in The Fabelmans is very similar to that as well.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know Spielberg had a bitch mom. That's crazy.
But yeah, what were we saying? Yeah, so they raid the wedding because they know his fucking name, so it wasn't hard for them to find the wedding. And also it's like he's giving hints away that show he kind of wants to be caught. He just straight up tells Carl that like, oh, I'm getting married. Stop chasing me. Well, you know his name, and now you know he's getting married. It's not going to be very hard to try and find his wedding in Louisiana or whatever. So they show up there, and then he runs away, and he's trying to get Amy Adams to come and find him in 2 days or whatever at the Miami.
This part was great. I love this part.
It was good, yeah.
Honestly, the whole movie's good, of course. But this is one of my favorite parts, especially like where it goes, because you have Leo. He loves Amy Adams. He wants Amy Adams to be his best girl. Or what do they call it? That's like the anime one.
His wife?
No, like they used to say something in the 50s like that. I don't know. Not best girl. I don't fucking know. It's something girl. People used to say in the 50s. I don't fucking know. Anyways, he wants Amy Adams to be his beautiful bride.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, like we have to run from the police now, and come meet me at the airport. And she's like, okay. And then she fucking snitches.
Yeah.
And that whole, it's not that simple, of course, in the movie the way it plays out. It plays out very dramatically, and I like the way that it plays out where you kind of like figure out along with Leo that it's a fucking setup. I love that. That's awesome.
But I'm gonna say, I was thinking about this in this scene though. He keeps saying, oh, you love me, right? You love me. She's like, yeah. And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, it's like, really, she doesn't even know who you really are.
Right?
Because everything's been a lie. So does she love you?
And you
can't really say that because she doesn't even know who you actually are.
That's another reason, too, I like that scene is the way he's like, the way he first tries to, like, talk her down or like, talk her, like, explain it to her.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, a name doesn't matter, right? Like, no one's name matters. Like, I love you and everything. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I really like that part, too, where they first start to get into it. But yeah, I kind of don't blame her.
No, that's what I'm saying, because, like, how can you don't love someone who obviously you don't even know who they really are.
I mean, you kind of do.
Well, you do, but everything's been a lie. That's my point. Everything's been a lie. Yeah.
It's a bit of a mixture, but it's definitely enough to be like.
And also, like, oh, you pulled one over on me and my family. Like, it kind of obviously she'd be understandably kind of pissed off.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so so I don't really fully blame her, and also she's probably scared too. If the FBI is like questioning her, it's like so. But yeah, the FBI they come to the.
They come knocking.
They show up at the airport, and The way he gets away, though, is kind of interesting. He managed to get on the flight
Yeah,
by getting the the cab driver to dress up as him.
A bit of a callback.
Yeah,
you know?
Is it a callback?
Well, no, it's not a callback specifically, but it's just like, oh, that was his first job.
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
He's using like the pilot play to like get away.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. And then he uses the pilot play again to get away later. Again.
You're talking about the very end of the movie?
Yeah. But I thought that was great. He sets up a taxi driver to kind of distract them.
Yeah.
Where he puts them in a pilot outfit in his car, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he gives them the sign, like, with that taxi driver.
And it says the name of the FBI agent. Yeah, that's badass. And then, he's walking through, which I thought this was kind of genius. Like, this is a great moment where he uses the whole, like, oh, pilots are kind of famous. Like, pilots are kind of, like, loved and respected and famous. To his advantage again, when he kind of has the entourage of these, which was very strange and kind of, like, creepy. Where he like goes and like recruits all those young women.
Yes, yeah. To
be what's the word?
Stewardess.
Yeah, like a flight attendant.
Yeah.
So he has them all like they look beautiful in their little outfits and like he's like shorter than them and, like in the middle and like all the men are just they're like oh shit. Then the cops that are looking for Leo are like looking at the flight attendants surrounding him and they're like, damn, we should have been pilots. You know, that part's awesome.
It was a good moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's like, these are high schoolers, but okay, police, go off.
And then after that, that's when, he gets out of the fucking country, right? At that point.
Yeah, he goes to France,
right? Yeah. Well, I think he's going, they say he's doing a circle. Like, he's going all over Europe, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's going in a circle. But they find him in France, where his parents met.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. And this part's pretty crazy. We're basically at the end of the movie, kind of. When Carl, Tom Hanks, finds him there. I don't know, this was like so fucking kind of over the top. When he finds him like what was he... He's like printing the checks, right?
This is interesting because this is like, this was real. Was it checks that he was doing?
Was he? I think so, right?
I don't think it was checks. I think it was something else. I could be wrong.
Either way, he's like in like a printing press.
Yeah. So it turns out that that's real.
Mm-hmm.
Like that setup.
Yeah.
And there's like like you said, it's like a printing press type of thing.
Yeah.
And in real life, he really did build like a scaffolding surrounding a printing press because the printing press is like a 3-man job.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, because I was young enough to like be able to run around it on the scaffolding and do all 3 jobs because he was like, it's like you're young and spry and you can run, but it should be like a 3-man job. So you finally get to see him do that kind of the real thing. And he's like strung out, he's exhausted, and the way he's talking to Tom Hanks when Tom Hanks comes in.
He's like a cokehead.
He's still treating it like a game. Yeah, that's off the top in the beginning where I mentioned like there's a little bit of like an addiction.
In this
at the end there.
Yeah, and it's on Christmas Eve again.
Yeah, that's the final time where they're like, oh, we always find each other on Christmas.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks is like, oh, they're waiting for you outside. You're caught. Which, again, I don't really know. Was he lying to him? Because they show up like 1 second later. I guess it wasn't a lie.
Maybe, I guess for me, like the most reasonable explanation is Tom Hanks was trying to... The reason he kept talking to him like that was he was trying to buy time for all the other officers to get there.
Yeah.
So he was like half lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did
swear on his daughter's life. Yeah, that's fucked. You shouldn't do that, Tom.
No, you should not.
No.
But how else are you going to capture a criminal?
You have to swear on your daughter's life. Yeah. You have to say, may my daughter go to hell unless I'm telling the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
But yeah, he gets him in the handcuffs. The French police take him. He promises to get him out, which he does, as we see in the. So we kind of get a skip ahead because we already saw the prison shit and all that. To them flying to the U.S.
Oh yeah. So do you mind if I mention some IRL facts?
Yeah.
So in the movie, the French prison is obviously depicted as being terrible.
Yeah.
And IRL, it was terrible.
Oh.
He had to shit in a hole in the floor.
Oh Lord.
There was no heat.
Did he get lice like he did in the movie?
I don't. He didn't mention that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And He said that he was 190.
Jeez.
So the real Frank Abagnale at the time, when he was younger, doing his scams.
Oh wait, why did I say geez? 190 is not that bad.
Well, I'm just
at least for like me.
No,
like,
I'm saying he was 6'1".
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was 6. That's part of the reason why I think he says that he got away with acting like he was older because he was so tall.
Yeah.
So he was 6'1". I'm 6'2", by the way. No, just saying, I'm 6'2". If anyone wants, I am single as well, and I do have a job and a car, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he was 6'1", and he was 190, and when he left the prison, he was 110.
Jesus
When
Christ.
he left the French prison, he was 110, so they didn't feed him very well, and
they did a good job though. I thought making him look kind of rough.
Oh yeah,
end,
making Leo look fucked up, and that did not look like a comfortable prison to be in. So fuck the French once again.
Oh.
If you're a French viewer, fix your shit, dude. Fix your shit.
Fix your shit, dude. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to mention the French prison shit because I thought that was interesting as well. That they had such poor conditions like that.
Poor Leo.
Poor Leo.
Yeah.
But
he comes back to the U.S., gets put in a prison, and Tom Hanks' character often visits him. So at what point is it
that he escapes?
No. I guess it is during when he arrests him in the printing press. And he's like, I can't trust you, Carl. You've been lying to me. Look at your finger. We get the ring. He's like, you are married. He's like, yeah. He admits, oh yeah, I'm married. And does he say there? No, that's when he first tells him he has a daughter, right? But I think he said, oh, she's 4. Or was that earlier? I can't remember.
No, it's
is that during their last phone call before they meet in the
He swears on the daughter when he thinks she's 4.
Okay.
And then that's when he first tells him about the daughter. But he like at that point he knows now that they're divorced, but he still swears on her life.
Okay.
And then later he says like, "Oh, I'm gonna go." Like when they're working in the FBI, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go skiing," and he's like, "A 4-year-old goes skiing."
That's
and then he's like, "Oh, she's 15 now."
Yeah,
like I was lying.
Yeah. Because it was easier to live the lie, as he tells him. Yeah. And yeah, he said basically like his family left him. Basically, yeah. So yeah, obviously the full circle moment kind of thing with Tom Hanks' character is, the reason he's so obsessed with Leo is because he failed at keeping his own family. So it's like, I don't know if I call that no, it's not wish fulfillment, but it's like
something.
It's like a surrogate son kind of
kindred spirit,
I guess. But it's like he wants to capture Leo because he couldn't. He doesn't have a family of his own. You know what I mean? It's like kind of trying to do what he couldn't before.
Yeah.
Keep a family around. So in a way, Tom Hanks is like the surrogate father for Leo, and then he's like his surrogate son.
Exactly. Yeah. They fall into place together.
Yeah. The point is that that's when you find out the truth about Tom Hanks, it's like, oh, that's the full circle moment, basically, about their little game, if you will, and why maybe Tom Hanks isn't as hard on him as you would think, because he offers him the job at the FBI and everything. So that's sweet.
That's very sweet.
That's sweet. It's like he's his son. He needs a son because he can't see his lovely daughter.
Aww.
Yeah, he just visits him in prison and shows him the checks, and he helps him out with the case. They offer him the job at the FBI.
Well, we didn't mention, of course, when he finds out his dad's dead.
Yeah. This was wild because he fucking slides out of the plane.
Yeah, so what happened? So they take him out of France, and they're about to land.
Yeah, and he said, "Can I call my dad?"
And he says, "Oh, you promised I could call my dad. I need to talk to my dad."
Because he doesn't want him to find out. Like through the news or whatever.
Yeah, and then so eventually, they're still about to land, and he says like, "Oh, I didn't want to tell you back then because it was so, like you don't want to pile on something like that when you're just getting arrested and like kick them while you're down or whatever." But he's like, "Oh, your fat dad actually passed away. Due to an accident.
Sad.
Very sad.
Very sad.
And true to life.
Yeah, he fell down the stairs trying to catch the train, which is interesting because that's kind of a thing. When he tries to give him the new car, he's like, no, I'll just take the train. And then that ends up kind of being his demise. Maybe if he had the car, it wouldn't have happened. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that's what crossed my mind there.
They did mention the train. Yeah. That is actually how he died, though.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, but in the story way. You know what I mean?
Oh no,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. But just the fact that it's also like actually how he died, maybe not.
Yeah.
But maybe they did wrap it around that way.
Mm.
It's weird though. If you're someone like Steven Spielberg and you're trying to adapt a man's real life into a story,
Yeah.
it's like, what's too far? Like, is it too far to like try and parallel the man's real life death to like something I made up previously in the story? I don't know. So I don't know. But
that's a good question.
It is interesting though.
Yeah.
Either way. But yeah, so he finds out that his dad is dead on the plane.
Yeah.
And he freaks out. And he goes to the bathroom and like kind of freaks out in the bathroom, and all the FBI agents are standing outside the bathroom kind of waiting for him to come out, and the stewardess says like, sit down.
Yeah.
And they won't sit down, of course.
And they break in the door.
They bust the door down.
I was like, no, when they broke in, they're like, what the fuck? I was the same. I was like, wait. I was like, how the fuck could he have gotten out of the damn bathroom?
I was like, you're in a damn plane.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
That was pretty wild. He like unscrewed the shit for the toilet.
This dude pulled the Sheriff Woody.
Yeah, and he slides down.
He pulled the Toy Story 2.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Can I tell you, Evan?
Mm-hmm.
How he did that in real life?
Oh sure. Yeah.
He just ran out of the plane.
Oh, he just ran.
When it landed, he just ran out.
But it's cooler if you slide out the toilet.
Yeah, if you jump down the toilet, it's funny too because he kind of told the story about seeing the movie with his wife.
Yeah.
And his wife turned over to him. She was like, "You went out the toilet?" And he was like, "Nah, I didn't go out the toilet." Yeah, so he just ran out the plane.
Yeah.
And just ran away from them. But that escape is not very, in real life and in the movie, it's not very glamorous. Like he kind of gets caught
immediately. Yeah.
Pretty
Well, it
much
happened
soon
twice
after.
because remember he tries to run out while they're in the prison also. And
Right.
he's like so sick he can't even run.
Yeah.
And they capture him immediately.
Because he kind of is like trying to trick them, but he also is genuinely like really fucked up and sick.
Yeah.
So, I like that moment though when all the inmates are like cheering.
Yeah.
When he's like running out. That's awesome. Especially because the French are terrible people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah. So, what else? Leo has the flow and the beard. And...
Yeah, the flow and the beard. But yeah, I was going to say, so yeah, the FBI offer him the job because he starts helping Carl out with the cases about the checks or whatever, because obviously he's an expert with fucking fraudulent checks. He gets offered the job. He starts working at the FBI. At first he don't like it because obviously they're not too kind to him because for obvious reasons.
Well, at first I should mention too is like he's not really offered a job in the traditional sense.
Well, it's like kind of like parole.
He's offered a parole kind of deal where
yeah.
it's like you're gonna work for the FBI instead of being in jail.
Yeah. It's
Until
like
and then at a certain point we'll let you go.
Like some community service type shit.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah. So, and of course it's like, am I gonna sit in jail or like just have a job? Because he doesn't have to go back to jail.
Yeah. When it's over.
After his work day.
Yeah, he gets to live like
he's just free, but he
it's
just
like
has
parole,
to work for
basically.
the FBI.
Yeah.
Parole.
Because like he can't leave the state or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which he does, and Tom Hanks lets him go.
Which I like that because he's like, no one's chasing you.
Yeah. It was a nice moment. He tries to leave again with you doing the pilot scam.
I think that moment to me represents like, it represents him. It's almost like an abused child.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of a weird thing to call like a symptom of abuse. But I guess you could call that like running away.
Yeah.
Like if you were to have like a foster child that like you finally get them into like a good home, and when they've had like maybe a few bad homes, they get into a good home and they still keep running away.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Where he still has this weird inclination of like as a cry for help, like running away.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're like basically still in jail, dude. Like, and I got you this job, and like just come back to the job.
Yeah.
We're not gonna chase you. It's fine.
Which he does.
So he kind of tests him a little bit by doing the thing, and going on flights when he's not supposed to, and shit like that, and then he shows up for work.
He does show up for work.
And it's a beautiful little moment.
Yeah.
And that's about it, right?
That is the end, yeah. But that makes me think though. It's like. It's like just that one little moment he has with Tom Hanks' character where he's like, he just shows up at the air. He doesn't try and stop him, but he shows up at the air. It's like at least he shows like some concern or care. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe if his dad did that, maybe none of this would have even. You know what I'm saying?
Like that,
at least showed like some sign of concern or care, you know.
And I think that's like, that's the idea too, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's not going there as like an FBI agent to like arrest him. He's going there as like his friend.
Like a father.
Yeah, like a father figure or family or something to be like, hey, like it's over.
Yeah.
Like we're not playing like cat and mouse anymore. Like we can have like a normal life now, and you can just have a job and be like, you know, it's a good moment.
It is a good moment. I agree. And he comes back, and they start working on that case together, and then you get basically the detail we mentioned at the beginning. He now has a wife and 3 children.
Yeah, so
and him and Carl are still friends to this day.
He had the job at the FBI, and then when the time, 12 years, or he had already served some time at that point, but whatever the minimum amount he had to do while working for the FBI to serve his term out, that ended, and then he just stayed at the FBI forever.
Yeah.
And he was happy.
And he was happy.
And the real life, Frank Abagnale said, someone asked him, like, do you ever miss it? Like, do you ever miss, like, being a con man or whatever? And he was like, no, because I get to do that, like, every day. That's my job now, which I think is pretty badass.
Yeah. Go work at the FBI.
I think that's pretty badass.
Go work at the FBI, kids.
Or the real takeaway is do whatever crime you want, and then the government will set you up doing that job.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Hell yes.
What was I going to say, though? But to tie it back to the deeply sad...
Oh, sure.
But fun but deeply sad. I mean, it's not the other way around.
Right.
It's fun but deeply sad, not deeply sad but fun.
Yeah, that's like deep. What movie? I want to ask you, what movie would be deeply sad but fun?
Deeply sad but fun.
Buffalo 66.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I agree. I'm not gonna try and think anymore. That's it. Taxi Driver.
There's a bit of that.
What was it? Oh no, but I feel like the ending is pretty happy. I would say.
It's a very happy
it's like,
ending.
They both kind of got what they wanted. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he helped like save this kid. They both became lifelong friends. He found a family and found a purpose, and his true passion, I think, which was scamming people, became his job.
Yeah. It's like the one thing he was really good at. He turned it into like a productive or positive thing.
Actual, like real positive profession. That's badass.
Yeah,
man. And I like learning, like, they show you a few things about, like, check fraud.
Yeah. I might go check that out later.
I think I might, I might cue this back up and, get my construction paper out.
Yeah.
See what I can do. No, but it was interesting, like, the, what was it, like, the rounded corners versus, like, the sharp edges of the check. And,
yeah.
One thing he mentioned in, like, an interview that I don't know if it was in the movie, but fake checks have reflective ink because it's normal ink, but like the real ink is magnetic ink, which isn't reflective.
Yeah.
So a fake check will have like reflective ink, I guess.
Interesting.
And then like the
any check I get, I might have to check.
I might have to open my checkbook.
Yeah.
Nah. But yeah, I thought that stuff was pretty interesting that they put in some real stuff like that.
And you know what that makes me think of? There was when he first get caught doing the substitute teacher thing. And there's like that one cute girl at the school. He tells her note. He's like, oh, a note that your mom gives you.
Oh, I like that.
To say like a sick note, basically. It's like, it's not going to be perfect. It's like you were going to fold it and put it in your pocket. Yeah. It reminds me of the check thing. Yeah.
It's basically as if like
you just wrote it now.
You just wrote it.
Yeah.
But like you would have taken it from home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was on that type of shit already. So that's interesting. That's really interesting too. Very cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool.
So good movie.
Good movie.
I enjoyed it. Is there any other elements of the movie you wanted to mention? I want to say it had a really great score, John Williams' score.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it really added to the adventure, whimsical-esque, like thriller type of nature the movie had.
Added to the fun.
Yeah, to the fun of it. Leo's performance was great because, like you say, he's kind of perfect for that kind of role where it's like the charming kind of criminal. You know what I mean?
A charming kid.
Yeah. Well, it's like in The Wolf of Wall Street, he's already a grown man. Like he's a man, but it's similar to The Wolf of Wall Street, like you said. It's like he just plays that kind of. He's a lot more sleazy in that, obviously, but
I think it kind of makes me jealous because there's so many times where I watch a movie and I'm like, damn, I want to watch like more of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you like either of these movies, like, watch the other one.
Yeah, for
you'll
sure.
like it.
Yeah,
because you have the same guy in a similar role with two directors that are like on the same page.
Yeah.
They're not like the same director, but they're like both trying to pull off the same kind of like sad but fun kind of story.
Yeah, for sure,
About a real guy,
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there any more cool fun facts? One of the main things I remember that he didn't like, not necessarily didn't like.
He hated. One of the things he hated.
One of the things he hated. One of the things he said, Steven Spielberg, you're a fucking hack.
Yeah.
And he spit in his eye. And Steven Spielberg said,
oh.
And he ate his spit out.
Yeah.
No, that's retarded. You can't say retarded, I'm sorry, but he, like you said, he's not an only child. He never saw his dad again.
Sad.
And one that I didn't mention, his mom was never remarried. That was made up for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But
we even mentioned, though, when he runs from the plane, how he gets caught.
What happens?
He runs
to the mom's house.
Yeah, this is a pretty important moment. And he sees, she's happily remarried and she has a new kid and everything. It's like, damn. So he really has no, like, his dad is dead and his mom has moved on. So he has no family at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like that last, like, rip off the Band-Aid kind of moment.
Yeah.
Where he realizes, like, oh, like, when I ran away, like, kind of lost everything.
Yeah.
I really did lose everything.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's that Shakespearean kind of loss, where it's, it's his choice.
Yeah.
That drives him to truly, his fear of losing everything drives him to lose everything.
Yeah.
In the end.
That is poetic.
What a beautiful fucking moment. What a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
You want to know another fun fact?
Oh, sure.
I don't know if IMDb can beat me this time.
Oh, no.
I think I have it all down.
Yeah.
For example, in real life, so I have a better one after this. In real life, he stole around $2 million.
Oh.
In the movie, it was about $5 million.
It was four.
$4 million.
Yeah.
I think in real life it was $2 million. It capped off at around there. In the scene where he's arrested in France, you know who's there? A little cameo.
In the scene in the movie?
In France, yeah. One of the police officers, a little cameo.
Who is it?
The real Frank Abagnale.
Oh, really?
Junior.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I definitely don't remember their faces.
Well, I don't blame you because he kind of just looks like a guy. But yeah, he's there.
It really is like Jordan Belfort.
Yeah.
Like he's no Leo DiCaprio.
It's like, oh, you're being played by Leo, but it's like, you're just some fucking random dude. It's like I said in the beginning, it's like, you're so lucky that you got to be played by fucking Leo. Because, like, in people's mind's eye, when they think of, like, oh, like, the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, or, or this Chucklehead.
Yeah.
Chucklehead. They'll think of, like, that handsome, suave, fucking, like, that's your history. That's your legacy. That's badass. But yeah, he had some kids. He had a beautiful wife.
He did. I know that fun fact because Steven Spielberg gave us that fun fact at the end of the movie.
Of the film, yes. Ask me a question.
Ask you a question?
Ask me a question about the movie, if it's real or not, and I'll tell you.
Well, let me think. Were all three professions real?
Yeah.
Okay. The doctor, the pilot, and the lawyer. Well, I think you already told me that actually while we were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of went through
it.
Were there any other jobs he had?
Were there any other jobs?
I don't know.
Oh.
That's a cool question, though.
I want to know.
I think.
What are the deleted scenes?
One thing that's kind of cool to me, though, it's like if you asked like a little kid, like, oh, if you could be like anything, what would you be? Like, he wound up being a pilot. That's one of them. He wound up being a lawyer. That's one of them. He wound up being a doctor. He kind of, there's that teacher moment in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, in real life, he did impersonate a professor of a college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in real life, he did impersonate a professor of college. And then he wound up being an FBI agent, which is another one. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, I want to be a spy. I want to be an FBI agent or whatever. So.
But those three specifically, like the pilot, the doctor, and the lawyer, especially the doctor and lawyer, it's really like, oh, like the shit, like, oh, your parents will be so proud. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, like you kind of mentioned, that is kind of what he was aiming for. It's like, oh, I want these respectable professions that, like, my parents will be proud of or whatever. But yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Mm. And it is, like, going to show, like, a childlike mentality.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Very true.
Good movie.
Great movie.
Great movie.
What did you give it?
I would give it a... And I know, like, this sounds kind of low, because I was pretty much praising the movie, but I would give it, like, a solid 7. I would give it a solid 7.
I believe I gave it a 3.5. So that's
Which
a
is 7, yeah.
That's a 7, but it's like 7... People underestimate the 7. The 7 is...
No, for sure,
is
for
strong,
sure.
You know, it's strong. And I think this movie's good, but it doesn't, you know... There's not the... I feel like to get above a 7 or above an 8, you need to have that little extra sauce that appeals to someone, like, specifically.
Yeah, exactly. It's like... I'm not saying, like, there's not really too much wrong with the movie, but it's just, like... Again, it's not, like... On a personal level, I'm not like, oh my god, this is, like, blowing my mind.
I would have been happy if it was...
It's a little cheesy, which I'm not, like, super into... Like, I mean, I like cheesy and, like, in a, like, an 80s action kind of cheesy, but it's, like, this is kind of, like...
Schmaltzy.
Yeah, exactly. In a very Spielberg way, which doesn't... It's not totally my niche, but it's some people, so, you know, more power to you.
I think if it was someone other than Tom Hanks, I'd probably like it a little more.
I agree. I was mentioning that with you guys earlier. You guys being Dylan and our good friend Andy, who is...
Who you may or may not be acquainted with at this point.
Yeah. Tom Hanks... His performance isn't great in this movie, especially the accent makes it a lot worse.
The accent kills it.
Yeah.
He's good sometimes.
Yeah.
He's really good in the scene where he kind of corners Frank.
Yeah.
And then Frank impersonates the FBI agent. That scene is really good. You know, his conversations with Frank in general and like the end of the movie, it's really good. But yeah, the accent just kills it.
Yeah.
The accent, it hurts it a lot. That's probably like my biggest issue with the movie.
I kind of agree.
It might be a little long too. But
it is a bit long. Because it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I remember at some point I'm like, all right, it drags a bit at times. I don't think it, especially for a movie like this where it's kind of quick paced.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously that's suited for the story. Obviously, it being
on the run.
Yeah, exactly. It drags a bit, especially towards the end. I think because it's like. Once he gets caught, it kind of comes to a halt. Which makes sense, I guess, you know, in a thematic way, I guess that kind of makes sense, but...
Yeah, because like, oh, you're caught.
Yeah.
But I would say maybe if you cut down some of the FBI, a little bit of FBI stuff at the end, cut out the game show.
Yeah, we didn't need that. Yeah, it was just weird because I saw, like, when he gets caught by him, it was like, oh, I still have 40 minutes left? I was like, oh shit. Or it might have been like right before he gets caught, but either way, at some point I was
the point where you're like, oh, you know, he's
it was an hour and 40 minutes. I'm like, there's 40 more minutes. I was like, jeez.
It's a bit long in the tooth.
Yeah.
But no huge like
issues
with
it
or nothing like that. It's very entertaining. It's a bit heartwarming. It's
for sure.
You know, it's a good movie.
It was.
It's a good movie. I would say check it out.
For sure.
And you know.
I can see why it was like
don't run away from home.
Besides, obviously, it like Christmas being kind of a big thing in the movie. I can see why it came out on Christmas. Like I feel like this like is kind of a good family. You know, go see this movie with your family on Christmas kind of movie. You know what I mean?
Like you and your son.
Exactly, because like we mentioned at the beginning, this could have easily been framed in a much darker. Kind of way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because it's Spielberg, he keeps it kind of light and fun and a bit wholesome.
And I think it's like...
Even when it is sad.
Even though this movie came out, you know, in 2002, where, like, there could have been a darker story, like a darker ending to the real Frank Abagnale Jr. story, I feel like the kind of tone and the message of the movie is pretty true to life to what he sees himself as.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting, too.
I say based on what you've told me.
Really,
yeah.
I've actually, you know, another fun fact. I've made up every single thing I've said about him.
That would be, if that was true, that would be pretty wild.
That'd be pretty impressive.
That would be fitting.
Because I'm a con man.
That would be really fitting. Yeah. So I almost kind of wish that was true.
That'd be badass.
That would be a perfect way to end the episode.
I should have done that. That would have been badass. This would have gone down in podcast history. That would have been fucking cool.
That would have been really good. I would have applauded you, Dylan, for that. That would have been really good.
That would be funny too, because it would almost be telegraphed by like the one time you did this much research or something. You know, there's like the clues. That's pretty badass. But sadly, no. I am not a mastermind.
But it also kind of ties in a way because obviously, like, oh, I studied for the bar exam. You studied for the episode.
I'm that
so
part.
Yeah,
I'm that part of the
yeah,
story.
Yeah.
But it's back to Frank.
Mm.
I think it does capture his life, and he kind of. I guess he was saying, like, people ask him about, like, oh, like, did you find God or whatever? Like,
You find.
Yeah. And he was like, no, like, I owe it all to my wife. Like, she gave me a family, and that's all I ever wanted, you know.
Well, that is fitting as well, I would say. So yeah.
I think Spielberg probably fucking nailed it.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't think he probably could have done it any better.
I agree. And
it's hard. It's hard to make a real life, story.
Yeah.
Into a movie.
And that is kind of I think that's the key difference also between this and The Wolf of Wall Street. And in the filmmakers, I feel like Scorsese is much better suited to show like a tragic downfall, kind of unhappy ending. Well,
it's not a wholly unhappy ending.
Yeah, because at the end of Wolf of Wall Street, he's like teaching people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in a weird way, it is very similar to this, but I don't know how to describe what I'm saying here, but
I think Wolf of Wall Street is like a bittersweet ending, but this is like
it's a lot more exactly. It's a lot more wholesome and happy, I would say, and I feel like Spielberg's definitely more suited for that.
But you're right, he could have taken it darker than it was.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was in someone else's hands, you could see, being a disgruntled FBI agent or like, or but he gives him, the family that he wanted in the end and everything, and it just feels... Yeah,
so...
feels right.
I feel like Spielberg was more suited to tell this story, and Scorsese was more suited to tell the Jordan Belfort kind of story. Of course, it being a lot more sleazy also. Like, this is like, oh, it's a family thing, the reason you do it. With that, it's like more like he actually is kind of like a greedy...
I was going to say, you have the match of, like, the motives in this. I think aligns with Spielberg a lot, where it's like, obviously, like we mentioned about the Fabelmans and Spielberg's real life, where it's this, like, resentment of his divorcing parents as a child, which, like, you couldn't ask for a better, like... match in terms of making like a real life story, but Wolf of Wall Street is more like, that classic Martin Scorsese kind of like, this dude's committing some crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
On his own accord.
And the ending is like, I didn't even think about this until now, but the ending is kind of very similar to Taxi Driver, because with the Sell Me the Pen thing, it's like, oh, he still kind of has like that con man in him, and it's like in Taxi Driver when he moves the mirror or whatever, you see, oh, Travis, even though he has a happy ending, he's still the point is like he's still crazy.
Yeah,
so it's I've never thought about that, but it's very similar.
Yeah, because it's almost it's like the drama version of like the monster's still alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like in Frankenstein or something, where you see like his hands start twitching, even though he's supposed to be dead. Or it's like, oh, Jordan Belfort or Travis. But I always love that quote. I think it was Martin Scorsese says about Taxi Driver, just like, oh, like he had this big blowout like action thing at the end, but he's like, the next time one of those happens for him, he's not going to be the good guy. I love that quote. That quote is so like, it just explains it like so simply, so perfectly.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like, damn, you didn't have to do him like that, Martin.
No, yes, yeah. So
interesting,
yeah.
Interesting.
I never thought about like that until now. So. What do you know? You talk about Spielberg and you end up learning something about Scorsese.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
You never know what you're going to learn here on RNS Podcast. What we're going to ponder and learn all about.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe that was besides the fact that they already had a working relationship by that point, but maybe Scorsese saw this and was like, "Hey, Leo.
Hey, Leo. Want to be someone worse?"
Even though, like I said, they had already been working together by that point. But who knows? Maybe he was like, "Yeah, you're perfect," because I saw. Catch me if you can. So, you never know.
Yeah, who knows? That's a good double feature.
You never know what's going on in a fucking genius's brain.
You can never quite map out what's happening in good old Marty today.
But yeah, that is Catch Me If You Can.
That's Catch Me If You Can. Good movie.
Good movie. I had
Great
fun.
movie. I would check it out. Go check it out. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere.
Go check it out. Go hug your dad. And dads, go hug your kids. How about that?
And I don't have a dad or kids, so I'm going to have to just chill. Kick back.
But do you have a Tom Hanks?
You know what I do.
Exactly.
And I'm going to give him a big Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
You know,
do that.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. Give a Mountain Dew to the gym in your life.
I agree.
Give a big hug to your family. Give a good call to your family. Don't let them unattended walk down the stairs.
Please don't do that. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful film. Beautiful film. Thank you for joining us. Please
Thank you.
Leave a like.
Please leave a like.
Please leave a subscribe.
You listened to 2.5 hours of us talking. Come on, the least you can do is leave a like.
And you know what? The least you can do is leave a like. If you leave a like, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a hint for the next episode.
Oh.
I'll give you a hint. So, I was thinking either a Ryan Gosling film or
I love me some Ryan Gosling.
Or a Jake Gyllenhaal film.
And you know me, I love me some Jake. I love me a Ryan more, but I do love Jake as well.
So I was thinking, one or two of the, Sigma movies.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a little Sigma movie.
So. Okay.
We're looking at that next week. Thank you for watching, and thank you for checking out the Andy episodes.
Yes, thank you.
The best of 2022, the worst of 2022.
Most anticipated
of 2023.
Yes, of course.
Those were great fun.
They were.
And
I had a good time recording them.
Me too.
And we were there. Here's some behind the scenes for RNS Podcast. We sat there for almost 6 hours recording all 3 of those episodes back to back.
You can tell in the second episode alone. You can tell.
But it flew by. It really did. It wasn't as painful at the end as the Spider-Man 2 episode.
Yeah, I think you said this after too to me, but it's like the fact that it's not the same subject.
Yeah.
Because we went for 4.5 hours
for Spider-Man 2.
On Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And we did like almost 6 on the 2022 thing.
Yeah.
But it's like the subject changed every like 10 minutes.
Yeah. And also we didn't start at 9 p.m.
Yeah, that as well. We kind of finished at like 9 or 10. So
yeah.
It was a lot easier.
It was, yeah.
A lot easier. But that gave us a good deal of content. So I hope you guys watch that and you enjoy it. And I love you.
I love you too.
I meant them. Our listeners.
I was talking to them too.
Oh.
Why would you think I was talking to you?
Well, now I'm blushing.
I love you too, Dylan.
I love you too, dude.
Oh, okay.
I do.
And that's a sweet way to end a sweet way to end a movie like this, I think.
We found our own little family too.
Yeah.
In front of this little Blue Yeti microphone. We found our own little home.
Thank you, everybody. Hug your parents. Goodbye.